Previous.
Hello and welcome to the Canadian Contenders League. We're back with the second of our 4 qualifier events to work out who's going to be joining us in the actual league once it does start off. I'm going to be your desk host, McCready. Joining me today is Light Rose, the wonderful caster, to my left, and Jenna, or Giraffero, another wonderful caster as well. Both of you are going to be taking us through the events of today, so what are you expecting when it looks towards like the Siege gameplay, V?
Well, to be honest, I'm expecting some big things. This is, the second step into finally going on to that NA league. And, this is where you can really show your stuff. Now, it's obviously, this is the point where we can separate the greats from the eh. And so this is kind of where we could see some great individual play, whether these teams have kind of worked together to really figure out how to work together as a team, push on forward, or kind of just give one person the microphone and let them do the work.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. And speaking of what you said, separating some of the higher talent from maybe some of the lesser, I feel like the returning talent is definitely something that's going to be one to watch for, personally. Looking towards this, Giraffero, our first game isn't going to include that. We're going to be looking towards Tide Pods and Canadian Musketeers. So not a lot to go off other than the rosters at the moment, but let's start spitballing. What kind of play would you like to see? What kind of maps?
Well, I'm not sure about maps, but in terms of play, I would like to see at least some baseline, team play, right? We want to see something that kind of fits with the meta, but also a little bit of individual play, right? We want to see a lot of individual gameplay. That's what we normally get in our, I guess, showcase of talent and our beginning of this league. And honestly, I truly don't know what to expect. This is going to be something really interesting because it seems like a lot of these teams are almost pickup in a way. These teams are kind of a mishmash of players from different teams maybe, or of different talents, and they're all coming together, going up against one another. It's almost like an all-star game, but with a little bit more chemistry, and that's what you love to see in these types of leagues. So I'm really excited to see what these teams can bring and what different talent is going to be put on stage today.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I mean, I'm looking at this now, and I'm saying, well, a lot of talent is coming through, and like you said, a lot of people wanting to get into this scene. It's being the first season. Well, obviously, they haven't had the opportunity to really go into a league with this kind of format. 3 players need to be in or living, well, Canadian, so I mean, there's a lot of opportunities for variety and new talent to make a way onto the scene, and they're going to be working their way through a double elimination bracket. And Light Rose, why don't you talk us through a double elimination?
Well, I mean, you kind of said it. A double elimination, it's in the name. You lose twice, you go home. So it's something that get a little bit of the benefit. Everybody starts on an even ground. And, well, yes, there are higher and lower seeds. Eventually, you still get 2 chances at everything. You win, you keep going on. And eventually, it's when you get to that final winners bracket finals, you're in such a good position. You feel so much better because you have multiple chances. Yes, it means you might have to play more, but then again, it's just playing more Siege, getting more practice. That's something that this could be, even if teams don't take it all the way. It's really good practice to go against these higher caliber teams.
Oh yeah, because we still have 2 qualifier events to go after this as well. And honestly, I feel like that double elimination, Giraffero, that really helps because you think we're going to be seeing quite a few best of ones today. So that double elimination, it gives a nice little breather, doesn't it?
It does give them a nice little breather, right? I mean, because not only are you getting that best of one, rapid fire gameplay, but you're also getting a second chance at it. You're getting a breath of potential life in the case that you do lose, or in the case that you were bested in a map that you weren't necessarily the best at, and you get a chance to go up against another team in another map and kind of have that, ability to claw your way back into the competition. That's what I love about double elimination. That's something that I think we're going to see a lot of, and something that I hope to be seeing a little bit more of these teams compete with.
Yeah, I personally love a good double elimination bracket purely because when I play my uni league, well, I wasn't the best, so having that second chance, it always just sweeten the deal a little bit for me. Our first game today, we're going to be watching Tide Pods against the Canadian Musketeers. Very interesting names. And the rosters as well are going to be quite interesting. So let's bring them up very quickly. Let's see exactly who's going to be in the game. Now, like I said, these names don't really make too much sense to me at the moment. These are relatively unknown teams, like I said. You're going along the lines of more pickup rosters. I just want to ask, Light, is there any names that you might actually really particularly like or recognize?
I like the name Boobith, but probably not for the reasons that I can disclose on bro. You all can insinuate why, but I don't really know any of these names. You know, I'm not around the kind of Canadian, being an American, I'm not exactly around the Canadian Tier 3, Tier 2 scene. So it's great to see new names, at least for me. You out there might know them, of course, but it's just seeing new names, new skills. It's great to see as a caster.
Yeah, I feel like having an opportunity for a new platform is very, very nice as well. Like we said, there's not much kind of room for Canadian teams and Canadian-based leagues, so this is a really nice way to get involved. And talking about returning names, there's none on this board that we can see at the moment, but a couple of games later, they're going to include those. For example, we have got Ember Rose Esports, as well as Niagara Falls Esports, who both played in our first qualifier event. Joining them is going to be Swell Patrol, which is headed up by Creepery as well, I believe. He's making a return to the qualifier events, which is something he's been hyping up on Twitter in a mad way, and I'm really looking forward to that. But like we said, we have to start with that first map, and like we said, it's a best of one. Light, we're still waiting on the map bans, so can we have some predictions? What maps do you think are good for qualifier events?
Talking about usually when I think best of ones, like the impact of best of ones, I look back at SI. Like the group stages of SI were all best of ones, and it was hell. Like you could not predict a single match. It was crazy to see these upsets, these great plays, and it was because it was all one map. And that's why you really have to balance going on a map that everybody knows, like Oregon, or going on something like Chalet, you know, these newer maps that you may have practiced for, but they're not possibly your best, but kind of banking on the fact that you're doing better than the other team. So it's hard to gauge which map these teams want to go on, because we kind of have to know what attitude they have toward. Do they want to go on something like the Consulate or Chalet, or just fall back on, you know, that kind of fabled 3 with Cafe, Villa, and Oregon, that, you know, the staple of, you know, kind of tier 2, tier 3, and it's something that a map obviously is extremely important. It shows just what you're prepared for, what you're ready, and how you want to engage in the map coming up.
Giraffe, I'm going to throw a weird one at you. Bit of a curveball, but I'm going to ask, a lot of people have said with best of ones, a lot more than the map, it actually does come down to the actual starting side. What do you make of that? Being the analyst, of course, I'm sure you have some thoughts at least.
Oh, well, yeah, I mean, of course. Yeah. You look at maps that are defense-based. You look at maps that are more attack-based, and you see, you know, whoever's going to get the starting side it's more than often, more than not, it's going to be biased. It's going to be having a little bit of a favor towards the side that is very map-specific defense-sided, or is very map-specific attack-sided. I mean, for Oregon example, right? You see it's a very defense-sided map. You see that the scoreline you want to get by the time you hit those attack rounds is 4-2, because you want to have more rounds won than rounds lost. It's just the simple meta of the game. It's how we have been inserted into the meta. It's how the map layout is based. So every single map has that type of layout to it. Every single map has that type of strategy to it. So you want to think, you know, what map is going to grant me the best side pick, or what map is going to grant me not necessarily the best side pick, but something I can come back in and get a few rounds picked up and maybe file some momentum from that. So I guess you also have to think about that when you're looking at map picks too. You know, I mean, there's a lot of sides to it to think about, not only just, hey, do I want to look at, you know, meta specific things, or do I want to go for something a little bit more crazy, like a map that hasn't normally been played, like Chalet. So, yeah.
Now, Tide Pod and Canadian Musketeers. We've been saying a lot of things. We don't know the players, we don't know the maps, but now the maps we do know. The winner of this game is going to be moving forward to face that team that we talked about, Niagara Falls Esports, returning from the first qualifier. What map is it going to be? Is this bias going to come into play? Well, let's bring up these map bands. Let's take a look. Consulate and Coastline taken away very quickly. Kaf Dostoyevsky and Villa, they follow. Clubhouse Oregon removed, and suddenly light, we are going to Chalet.
Oh!
I mean, you saw in the end, it kind of came down to the Canadian Musketeers' choice. You see, they could either opt to go for Oregon or Chalet. It's these kind of two ends of the spectrum. And so I think they must feel a little bit confident, either wanting to throw a curveball or they're ready for Chalet. And that is going to be extremely exciting, going for the maps that every caster has done to death. And, we see Oregon, and we get to see Chalet. It's crazy. I personally have not casted Chalet because how much it's been unfavored towards something like an Oregon or these new older maps, kind of.
Huh. Honestly, I look at that and I say, well, Chalet, it's a map that's really coming to the meta. I feel like it's the only map in this competitive map pool that's actually been introduced to the game after the 20-second meta, and I feel like the way that teams approach it definitely leans into that, Giraffero.
So you think that it leans into the 20-second meta? You think that
I'm saying it's untouched by it.
It's untouched by the 20-second meta.
Look at your defensive lineups for bar games. You don't bring a typical set of operators like an Echo, a Maestro, a Smoke. No, it's an O'Rooney, a Castle, maybe a Jaeger, or an Ella. You play it in a different way.
Yeah, I think I definitely agree with you on that one, because Chalet is laid out, and I'm probably going to bring this up a million different times during the cast. Chalet is laid out in a very specific way. There's a lot of open areas, but there's also a lot of closed-in areas. There's a lot of window play, but there's also a lot of areas where there isn't exactly those windows. There's a lot of breaches. It's so very specific. It's so unique to itself, and it brings in a lot of those opportunities for the attack and the defense. And again, it's very different from all of these maps that we see. A lot of these maps are usually consistent with one type of play. Chalet brings in a lot of different elements to play. So I guess you have to think of more than just that 20-second meta, because in this map layout, it's not necessarily going to work. There's going to be a lot more operators at play. There's going to be a lot more strategies at play. It's like, this is kind of the clean slate of competitive that we get to see. It's untouched by the meta. It's untouched by that 20-second meta. You're totally right. So we get to see that new level of play, and I'm excited to see it between Tide Pods and Canadian Musketeers, because I have not seen Chalet being played not once either. So this is pretty new for me.
Okay, well, as someone who's actually seen a lot of teams really take towards it, I want to say right now, the bottom floor, it's not really that important to a lot of teams. They look at it and it's a site that is really easily worked around, because defenders, they want to commit a lot of utility to one side or the other, and then the attackers, they have the option of just walking around to a different position. Piano on that top floor, it acts as a linchpin. It's a choke point. A lot of teams really just try and commit to that position, whether it's your master office, whether it's your kitchen dining, and in the case of bar gaming, it's all about piano hallway. That little area is very central to the map, I find, and it's one you need to look out for, most importantly. Light Rose, Chalet, we know that you also haven't seen it, but I want to hear what your thoughts are moving into it, because you've heard mine from the experience of, I've already seen it. What do you think's going to happen?
Well, I mean, Chalet, it's honestly, like Jaffer mentioned, it's a very unique map. It's also, honestly, a very fun map to play and just kind of look at. With this layout, we see the first floor, it's been very carefully sanctioned so that the stairs are just close to trophy. You have to be very careful. Roaming is very impactful, basically how each of these floors are set up, so that there's different areas, so there's different rooms that can kind of be a choke point, as you mentioned, for these players. So it's how do these teams want to play? Do they want to, have a more site-centric lineup? Do they want to have more roaming? in, is there going to be something like a Jackal ban, like a Nomad ban, to really make sure that these teams have somewhat of an extension off-site? Because the more control they can have, the more time that they can waste through that, the better they'll have at defending these sites. I mean, especially if you look at second floor, I mean, you mentioned the piano was that kind of linchpin. If you could just defend that, hold it, Bastion down, then you will be looking very, very pretty onto the site.
Yeah, I feel for the position of piano, especially on Master Office and Kitchen Dining, it's one of those that you want to akin towards maybe 90. It is a position that you hold more in a way that doesn't really relate to 90 on Oregon. It's a position you hold with your life. You commit a lot of utility, you sit there, you do not leave, because if that position goes, well, the attackers, they have another entryway onto site, they can take away the crossfires you've set up. It's something that I feel is such an integral part of the map itself. I feel like Ubisoft have done quite a nice way setting it up and lining it in a way that it can take that role. We are going to be looking at moving into this game very soon. I believe we're just waiting on a few things to catch us up. So, Giraffe, we've heard Light Rose's thoughts. What about yours?
Well, I haven't casted this map, but I've played it. I've played it in a competitive sense. I have scrimmed with DG Womans quite a few times on the map Chalet. I've seen them play it quite a few times. By the way, congrats on getting into CCSW for them for sure. And I have experienced a lot of roaming on it. I've been in that position before, and I know roaming is kind of like that balancing game where you gotta know when to get back to the objective, but it's also that kind of game and a specific, to the map on how you play it. And I feel like with Chalet, you can keep roaming for a pretty long time because there's a lot of areas, a lot of nooks and crannies on Chalet that you can place roamers and they'll be able to kind of poke and prod at the attackers and be able to keep them away while also maintaining their life and maintaining their utility while they're at it. And that's a really important thing to think about because Chalet, like you said, does have those linchpin spots. So it's kind of like, if you place those roamers in those specific spots, they can help even further towards the cause of keeping away those attackers. And the attackers are going to have to deal with that. Not only that, but getting into the objective itself, which could pose an even greater threat to them. So you really just have to think about that. The attackers are going to have to focus on timing and how they want to work that out as well.
I feel like it's a pretty good approach. I feel it also leads into maybe Light Rose talking about these bands, maybe a Jackal and a Nomad, but I am going to be leaving you because we're just waiting on just the last player to join into the lobby. So I'm going to say good luck, best of luck to all the teams, and well, we're already looking at Valor, Valor's GG and Wrecking Crew. Nearly messed it up there. They've already qualified. Today, we're going to find out who else is going to join them. Light Rose and Giraffe, well, I'm going to hand it over to you guys.
All right. Well, thank you so much for Creedy for coming in, a great friend of mine. And now we're back together. You and I both have not casted this map, so it's going to be a interesting experience. Not
to say the least.
You know a little bit more about it. You've played, competitively. You mentioned for DG, so you probably know the specific callouts a little bit more. Like,
oh God, I
we'd
don't. Listen, there's a lot about this map that I still don't know. There's a lot, especially in terms of strategy, attacking strategy, I really don't know a lot about it. Defending strategy, I'm starting to get the hang of it, Of course, I was talking about roaming. I know a little bit about the anchoring side of things too, but outside of that, attacking is so different every single site when it comes to Chalet because you need a different set of operators almost. Not even a different set of operators, but just a different mindset when you go into it. It's like, one site is like, okay, we're going to take this vertically. The next site is going to, we're going to take this horizontally and we're going to pressure this and that. It's like you have to go in and think about it differently every single time. It is so insane. And there's a different gameplay into it and it can just get really complex. So I really want to see what the attackers can do with these different sites and how they're going to go for it.
Yeah, I think Chalet is definitely one of those, you either hold something or you have a really big chance of the round going not your way. Because like what McCready mentioned, it's just these linchpins, these very heavy parts of the map that are just so integral to the site, like piano, certain areas of wine that can give you such a good advantage of just the entire site. If you relinquish that to the attackers, then you're not going to be sitting pretty, I'll tell you that. And so that's why I'm very interested to see whether, what Tide Pods are going to ban, whether Musketeers are going to go for something a little atypical, just so we have, a little bit of variance, a little bit of difference in this map, or whether we're just going to be, Thatcher, Hardbreach, Valkyrie, Mira. Bam, 4. Those are our bans, that's it.
Thatcher, Hardbreach, Valkyrie, Mira. I mean, it makes sense. It does, because you have basically all of those, I guess, essential elements in Chalet that you want to see being taken out. It's not like there's one thing that you can pinpoint quite yet in the meta that says, okay, I want to take this out. Like, I want to take out, Flank Watch. I want to take out, for example, a Jackal. Like, you have to try to cover all your bases with these bans, and it can be really hard to get down to it, and it's really going to follow how the strategy is going to play out. So, I mean, we were kind of talking about that Jackal ban, so what are you thinking about these bans so far, this Jackal ban?
I think it's especially great to see because now we're, like I mentioned, we're having some atypical bans, taking Jack off the board. That's going to allow for a lot more roaming, and especially with the Melusi, I think that's going to make attacking a lot easier. Her difference hasn't gone through, where you punch it. That is not until the next operation, so she's still a little bit strong for now, but her going off the board, I think that's going to make, attacking this basement and this second floor a lot easier, simply because these really strong areas that these Banshees can go on. So that's not going to be an option, but Valkyrie instead is going to be in play. But will Tide Pods choose to bring her out is the question. Oh,
I'm
there?
not muted. Hello?
Oh, you
Hello?
good?
Oh, boy.
you got cut off.
I have no clue what happened. Absolutely no clue. That must have been a little bit of a technical mishap.
Yeah, it happens sometimes. We can't.
It happens. It happens to the best of us. It happens to the best of us. Well. Anyways, we're gonna be heading on over to Bar. This is an interesting site. I would not have expected this to be our first site, but what we do know about this site is that there is a pretty big room that's going to be the library sitting right on top of one of these bomb sites, and it could be used very, very powerfully to either team's advantage. That's why the defense is going to have to try to hold it as long as possible, and the attack is most likely going to be vying for it for as long as possible just as well. You got a lot of vertical opportunities there, and with the hatch being out of play, it looks to be that you have a direct line of sight into the objective just as well. So that could truly be a huge point of contention for the attackers as well as the defense. So I guess between these 3 minutes we've got going on so far, we're going to be seeing a lot of attacking going on over there.
I really like the inclusion of the Frost. Frost has seen a lot more play recently, especially since she now got that ITA shotgun. She's allowed for sight rotation, she's got the deployable shield, and she has, as we've kind of seen Windows, these sites which have such a big part of Windows, she gets played more, as a lot of times teams just aren't ready for it. They might know it's there, but in the moment, they're just ADSing down. They're just not ready for a Frost Trap right below their feet, and they get caught, and all of a sudden, the tides have turned. So, taking the Frost already, she's going to be a very big part, I think, of this, bar gaming site because of the windows including. And already, it's going to be Musketeers taking that first frag as it's Coffee going down.
It is Coffee going down. Man. Our Jaeger is going to be the first off the board. It's a tragic twist, but we still got 4 more players up on the board left. It's going to be 3, though. We got a double kill going on for, I want to say Alex, or we'll say the Twitch, with the F2 coming on in big, swinging on over and taking out our Frost. You were talking about the Frost, but it looks like they will not get very much play going on this round. And now that linchpin has, unfortunately, been uncovered, and now the attack does have control of that area. But you got Zigalo? I want to say Zigalo. I have no clue how to pronounce these names, but he'll be taking off that Twitch right off the board. The person who got the 2K, so it's a little bit of a 2-for-1 trade we got going on there.
Yeah, but I think you just lost a lot of map control for it. Now you see Simon right above Library. You have those breaching charges, but they're not even going to have a chance to use them, as Boobith is going to be able to take them out, and it's equaled on up, about a minute left, and I think right now, even though Tide Pods don't have the map control, things seem steady just for now. You have Tarofish, Elliot, and Uber wanting to use their utility. You have about 3 flashbangs and a couple drones still in your pocket, so it's still winnable for either side, but as that Rooney goes down, that's going to really swing things a lot towards Musketeers for this one.
Yeah, right. I mean, you got a 2-on-3, not looking at bodies, but just looking at utility and how map control is working out, right? You got vert presence going on for the attackers. They have control of libraries. They could very easily make a rotation going on into the bar and the game side of things. You got Boobith going down by the ARX. That's going to be a 1-on-3 for you. Smoke is the remaining player left up. He still has 1 canister, as we see that the plant will indeed be going down. It's going to be a swing, though, coming on for the Habana. She gets taken down, but in a 1v2 scenario, looks like the attackers are trying to set up something from afar. Smoke canisters going off, but oh my word, the diffuser has indeed been placed down. It's still a 1-on-2, about 30 seconds left on it, and there we have it. Elliot, he'll be getting the AK-12 kill. Nice headshot proning from behind the bomb, and that is the round 1, the first round we have in our gameplay for Musketeers.
Yeah, Zigalo doing a great job, I think, of equaling things up. Just, it's a lot of that individual play. I mean, I mentioned beforehand that it's a question of, is this going to be a team game, or is it just going to be one person tries to make it all theirs? They try to carry the team on their back and push it all on forward. Obviously, that first round, we saw Musketeers win that out, and we saw Zigalo do a great job of kind of evening things up, making it at least winnable in some sense. And I do want to mention that Flores, I believe, is actually in play. We did see Alex kind of flash it and then Six picked on the Twitch, but correct me if I'm wrong, I do believe Flores is going to be in play.
I believe he is. I want to say he is. I really want to say he is, because Flores being in play could be a huge game changer, right? I mean, he's got those little C4 drones that can be extremely powerful in a whole lot of different situations, especially with Chalet, where, like you said, there's a lot of areas where if you're not holding it and you're giving that up actively, I mean, it could be absolute destruction. It could spell doom for the rest of the round, and having those little Flores drones to go in and split up the presence of a defender could be absolutely huge.
Yeah, the thing is, though, is Flores might be impactful, but I don't know if teams actually are ready to kind of bring him into the lineup. They haven't practiced with him, just haven't accustomed to anything. Like, he's not extremely powerful, at least not yet, that you should automatically bring him in no matter what. It's like the old Lion and old Ella, where it's just they're so blatantly stupid and overpowered that you should bring them in. But Alex, I think, still keeping with the kind of drone gadget. The Twitch hasn't gotten usage just yet. I mean, we saw the gun absolutely do work with the F2, but the Twitch drone's still alive and still kind of zipping on around. Nobody on the side of Tide Pods has found it. They're going to stay alive, wanting to destroy another gadget another day.
So actually, this is the same exact take that we saw last round from Musketeers going on into the Solarium. Getting droned in on first, of course, the entry of Ash. Simon moving on into Master Bedroom alongside the Nomad, who's most likely going to place those air jabs down on the main stairs. But you do have somebody below, and that could be your little, ace up your sleeve, we'll say, for Tide Pods, right? You got the Valkyrie sitting below, most likely aided by those Black Eyes, and with the Master Bedroom, having those Master Bedroom office, I should say, having that destructible floor, Valkyrie could come right on in and use that C4 to her advantage, and boom, that's a player down for the attack. But let's see as time plays on. We got Tarofish. He'll be taking out one player. Coffee, unfortunately, going down once again. He's not getting a chance to play all too much, but that C4 coming in, like I said, predicted that one out, and that's your ace down. Absolutely huge plays going on here.
They still have Tarrowfish in their back pocket, and just the utility that's put towards this kind of Office Master side. You see the deployable shield, the magnets, everything just to try to delay Musketeers. Because Tide Pods, they've been actually doing a great job of wasting time. Musketeers, they still kind of haven't gotten library. Actually, when you do see somebody is over there, but they haven't really executed anything towards the site. Tide Pods still have a C4 in their back pocket and 4 members left. They have the Frost Mats. They've got everything left to kind of repel this out, but it's Alex who's not going to be able to find the shot onto Boobit. There's going to be a little bit of a trade in HP left, but Musketeers, they're kind of reaching the apex. They need to start a little bit of this execution. They need to find something as it's Boobit who's going to take down Alex. So that's going to make things a lot harder, as that's really kind of been your person who's been this executed. As Omega goes up those stairs and is able to take out Tarrowfish. You see the rotate coming out from Musketeers, a desperation coming out as it's Uber, who's not really going to be able to do much. They might do some damage onto Zigalo, but in the end, it's going to be Tide Pods winning that second defensive round and making sure this definitely isn't a one-sided match.
I mean, second time's the charm, right? For the defense of a bar in games. That was a pretty huge retake there, right? Because we saw that the execution was happening pretty quickly from Musketeers. They were trying to make their way on down the stairs. They were trying to go through the hatches, just trying to find any way into the objective that they possibly could. See, the issue there is that they didn't necessarily have adequate intel to know exactly where the players of Tide Pods were. That's why most of them honestly got snuck up on. And the remaining players who were alive, they were just playing extremely aggressive and out of place. They weren't necessarily playing together, and they all just kind of fell apart towards the end, which is really just spelling destruction for them towards the end of the round, which is a crucial time where you need to be playing together. That's not necessarily what you want to see from Musketeers, but of course, it'll be a round for Tide Pods, and like you said, I mean, hey, they are not going down without a fight. So, in a 1-1 scoreline, we see that 54% attacker-sided map isn't necessarily going to be all too attacker-sided.
Yeah, I mean, that's barely, it's about 4 or 5% that it's just the difference between it. And yeah, that's the most attacker-sided in the pool, but that is literally by a smidge. So
I know, isn't that crazy?
It's kind of that natural, I think, defense or advantage that defense gets with the time bank. I think that's why Ubisoft is going to try to do that, you know, the ability to swap your attacker in the drone phase, something that, you know, allows for a lot more specialized play. It allows the attackers to, you know, not just try to get the most general sense. So we're seeing, you know, 5 to 10 operators. We're utilizing the entire Rainbow Six lineup, which, you know, you love to see more of that. But the attackers, you know, having to engage on their own and have to push towards the bomb site automatically makes it so these defenders have, you know, a natural advantage. So that's why, you know, we might see barely attacker side.
I mean, hey, I guess that is the key notes of having an extremely balanced map. Speaking of balance, we got 2 players going down, 1 each for the respective sides of the attack and the defense. We got the Aruni going down and the Habana. I mean, when you think about it, though, I feel like the Habana is a hell of a lot more important than the Aruni, right? I mean, she's still got her use left in her, that unfortunately is not used out for the round. So there you have it. But we got Elliot going down. That's your other hard breacher, which is absolutely huge for this round. That could be a potentially round-losing scenario there, because not only do you not have that main wall open for Office, but you don't really have very much control in library itself. There's a lot of crossfire angles being held, especially by that Frost specifically, and with roamers sitting around the library itself. So there really isn't too much of an opportunity for the attack to hit this at this point, unless they want to just go all in and try to hit that linchpin spot, which was the piano area.
It's very unfortunate for Elliot and the Western Musketeers. Elliot, you know, being one of the hard breachers. I
keep on saying it with like a wisp.
Being one of the hard breachers along with Tarrowfish, you now just have to rely on the natural soft breach that the defense kind of left open. I mean, you can't execute from that south side, the main lobby side, so you just kind of have to go into piano, like you mentioned, that linchpin. And there's still 2 C4s. Omega's on a triple kill right now, looking for something even more. And now it's just looking like there's absolutely no chance for Musketeers to come back, especially now that Uber's taken out. Simon's gonna walk up on over. They are gonna shut down Omega, making sure they're capped at that 3K. But now everybody on Tide Pods knows Simon's location. They're not gonna engage because that's exactly what this Ashe wants. They want to even it on up. They want to make sure that, you know, these mistakes by Tide Pods are punished, but still, Simon, once again, they have to engage. They have to go past the Siri, get this deployable shield. Just look at that impenetrable barrier that is laid out in front of them with only 20 seconds, and they're going to hop on in. They're going to go towards this balcony. They're going to take out one for their troubles, but they're going to have no chance of coming back. And if Tide Pods are smart, of course, they will stay back, make sure that Simon either has to plant this diffuser or push on forward past they want to, but there's going to be no chance for them to go on forward. And Tide Pods winning the second round in a row, and you just saw that, a C4 under, and I don't think that was under, that was thrown from the other side, but still, Tide Pods looking still pretty good on that second, or third round, excuse me.
Yeah, I mean, they're not really letting go with the gas on this one. They're going full steam ahead, and if I'm being honest, I was kind of rooting for that Ashe. I'm not gonna lie to you, Light Rose. I was
biased?
I know. I'm sorry. I was rooting for the underdog. I'm sorry. It's just in my nature. I just can't not do it. I was rooting for that Ashe to win out that round. You know how crazy of an upset that would have been? I mean, it was a 2v1 towards the end.
Yeah,
of course,
yes.
We saw that Tide Pods got it together, but man, oh man, that could have been a crazy round. But regardless, it is a 2-1 scoreline as you head off into the fourth round. We're going to be seeing Wine Cellar in Snowmobile Garage being played out. I just have to ask you, my fellow caster, what do you expect to be seeing this round?
Well, I do expect, we already seeing this Aruni. We're seeing, or actually, that's not an Aruni, that's a Goyo, very different type of player. But there's a lot of denial with the Goyo, with the Kaid, with the Mute, just making sure that attacking this site, they're met with a brick wall. And that's something that makes it so hard, especially in the late round. You saw Simon, they had 20 seconds left, 3 members to go, and they still had to get rid of Surrey Gates, deployable shields, electricity, reinforced walls. There was so much to go through. It's a little bit of, if you're not, the 20-second meta a little bit, if you're not able to deal with that, then you might just see a hectic, overall, just a bunch of operators throwing their gadgets in at the last second. But it seems that Tide Pods, they want to have the ability to deny these reinforced walls, and they want to just have the ability to slow down these attackers. It's obviously it's what these defenders kind of have been doing for most of what we've seen recently in Rainbow Six, is just kind of throw everything that you have at these attackers and see, hey, get through this, you friggin' pleb. I don't know.
I know,
but
with a purpose,
attackers.
Of course, with a purpose.
Yes.
I totally see where you're coming from, though. It does feel like a whole lot of utility is just being thrown out towards those attackers. But speaking of utility, it looks like we got the Maverick. He's coming in hot and ready. He'll be picking off the player of, I believe it was Mel. It was the Goyo getting off the board with that wonderful, beautiful Vector. He just wasn't able to stand a chance against Tarrowfish, who is now in on the little trenches, we'll say, of Wine Cellar, and he looks to be attempting to pick off that reinforced wall, which could spell doom. I've been saying that recently. Spell doom for the wall and for potential chances of Tide Pods to be defending that little closet area. But we got Uber. He'll be picking off another. That's a double kill for him. ARX coming in hot and heavy. He got him picking off another, though. It's going to be a triple kill. So we saw I believe it was the smoker, I should say the Mute, coming in, trying his hand at things. And all players now rotated in the Wine Cellar. It's going to be a single player remaining in a potential flawless round for the attackers. And yes, it will be. That's a flawless round with a 4K coming in for Uber, with the only player taking away his 4K being, I believe it was Taro.
Yeah, that first shot. But it seemed like almost all of those kills happened while Musketeers were off the site, weren't in the site. It was Tide Pods just kind of peeking these angles, being really, really cheeky with how they engage. And obviously that came to bite them in the butt, not really having any defense whatsoever. It was almost a minute, and then these Musketeers were in the site planning, and it was their round in almost 0.3 seconds. That was how quickly that round seemed to go, and just how dominant Musketeers had when it came to those 1v1s. But so Tide Pods are not going to go back to the basement. They're going to go straight to bar gaming, and I think that's probably the smartest decision. Basement did not seem strong in the slightest. Like, no utility seemed to counteract these attackers. Nothing seemed to work out for them. But bar gaming, they did win the second time around. They just need to avoid, that first loss. Make sure that they stay dominant, use their vertical play, don't push up too far, because that is honestly what's killed them. We've seen Tarrowfish take out, Coffee and all these others so early in the round that it really hinders them when it comes to, trying to prevent the site control, trying to prevent Tide Pods from really extending out and getting onto the site. So they need to make sure that they play a little bit more passive when it comes to these things. And that camera in office, I think, is a very, very smart thing, and it's something that Musketeers had no prep for. But I don't know if it'll work this time. They had that C4 kill, so we'll see if the Musketeers are privy to the secret Valkyrie camera.
I don't think they were. Honestly, I feel like a lot of the Valkyrie cameras were still up by the end of the round, and if not, I feel like the Valkyrie cameras would have been placed in a different spot. Valkyrie should have at least 2 to 3 different spots for each different site, for each different cam. But yeah, I feel like those cams, that intel has been working out pretty well for the defense, and it has been giving the defense a whole lot of, we'll say, upper hands or aces up their sleeve that I've been saying a whole lot. In terms of C4s, in terms of just getting the drop in on the attackers where they're trying to head. But I totally agree with you on your point that you were talking about, Tide Pods. They're playing extremely aggressive at the beginning of the round. They're playing super aggressive, and Musketeers, they're not stupid. They know how to counteract that, and they know how to play against it. So, oh man, this is going to happen, isn't it? Yep, it's a C4. I saw it coming. But yeah, they know how to play. I know, 2 times. They know how to play against it. So what are Tide Pods to do? Yes, they are to play a little bit more passive. This time around, they did not get any type of, how should I say, clap back for their aggressive plays. Instead, they got rewarded for it. Nice 5v3.
I say Omega has done a really good job, has been a great shot with that 1.5 on that 9mm, because it's just, they've been finding heads left and right and doing a great job at evening these man count, getting that advantage. Even though they were taken out, Tide Pods still have the advantage. You took out the Maverick, you took out the Lion, so you lose the Gon 6, you lose frag grenades, you lose that E1D, and these are great picks by Omega. Now, Musketeers, they still haven't really pushed towards Library. They now, just got rid of the Jaeger on the stairs, and I think that's honestly a death that you can take. 45 seconds left. We do see Uber. I believe that was a Frostmat, in the window. That's something that going to waste time. It's going to waste resources. So a good job by Tide Pods, still losing members, still staying ahead and using their utility wisely. As this round, as it looks, should be Tide Pods. It should be, in any sense. They have 3 smoke canisters, 1 just got used. They don't have a C4, but they still have great guns in their hands. They have everything they need to secure this round. The question is, are they going to? That's the thing, is, yeah, in theory, things can work out, but in practice, is it going to come to fruition? We see Simon having that diffuser, gonna drop in on the site, and Uber Solo gonna be taken out by MA1, and while Elliot is able to go down, Simon gonna have no chances there in the smoke canister, and they have not gonna put that diffuser down, as Tide Pod's still staying strong on this attacker-sided map.
The Valkyrie picked up that entire round. That was absolutely insane. I'm sorry, this is a complete energy shift, but this is crazy. This is crazy to be looking at. Valkyrie, not only did she come out of these shadows, I don't even know if she was in the closet or blue stairs, wherever they were sitting, coming on up, taking out one player from behind, doing a whole at least 90-degree shift, potentially a 180 shift, kills the other player with the MPX, pulls out the Deagle, shoots the Ash, kills him wins the round, boom, round 5-1 for Tide Pods. I mean, I was honestly expecting the attack to win that, because we have seen time and time again, when these attackers are faced up against the defenders in a one-on-one gunfight, in a very even, I should say, one-on-one gunfight, face-to-face, they win. They have better mechanical skill, it just is simply the truth. But Tide Pods, I mean, that positioning for the Valkyrie, absolutely insane. It was round winning, it was stunning, beautiful, elegant, whatever you want to call it. I mean, it was great.
It's great to see from MA1. I mean, they're evening it up with Omega as the top fragger on the side of Tide Pods, and it seems that right now Tide Pods, obviously, Coffee hasn't been doing great in terms of, Jaeger's usually, I guess, was the fragger operator. I think since his change, you think that's kind of stayed the same, even though his 416C kind of got that big nerf where it's the recoil is little harder to control. I don't know, little in however you want to take that, but do you think you still regard Jaeger as that kind of defensive fragging operator?
As a person who plays Jaeger very consistently, on my team at least, yes. I still think that he has the ability to frag. I mean, yes, he has been nerfed into the ground, baby. I mean, his recoil is horrid, his damage is not very much better, and frankly, I mean, he's definitely a much different operator from year one, but I still would have to say, I mean, his utility is very, very powerful. He's still going to be in the same exact role he was before. Nothing too much has changed outside of the fact that we have to get used to another recoil, and we have to be able to win our gunfights and get our headshots. That's just the truth.
Yeah, crosshair placement is a big thing. I mean, if you're able to hit headshots with one shot, doesn't matter how much recoil you have, as long as you're starting on one thing. But speaking of Jaeger, they're going to be down immediately. They're not going to be taken out, but we do see Boopith right around the corner. They want to try to get a refrag, want to get up the Jaeger, and that's where we go. Coffee is going to be able to get taken up, as it is a 4v4, even though Coffee is very low, and it's Omega still just headshot after headshot after headshot. They've taken out these members of Musketeers. They are a big reason why these rounds for Tide Pods have been so strong. And now Musketeers are getting the Solarium wall open, so the plant might come pretty soon, especially if they can take out the person in this closet.
Wow, I mean, 1.5 sight working wonders for the Frost. It got going 7 in 4, but AK-12 showing up just as Frost does as well. You got the AK-12 going in and doing its work. It just wants to pick up more and more kills. But you got a player moving on up to Solarium, but you had one player watching it. Not the best time to try to rotate and make a flank, but hey, it was a last-ditch effort. You got the Frost up against 2 players. You're going to pick off one. That's a triple kill. Nice headshot for the 1.5 scope. Sees him through the doorway, but in a 1-to-1, it's going to be Simon coming out victorious with a very well-placed headshot. Great crosshair placement. The man coming in with even less health than the Frost still gets the shot behind the bomb chassis and wins out the round in a clutch situation for round 6. Nice job. Nice job, Tide.
Yeah.
Musketeers, I should say.
Yeah, that was honestly a really good shot. I expected Omega has been, you look at that, 9 and 5. They've been consistent all game, and I expected them to win that, especially because you mentioned that HP advantage, but still, that Zofia, she's very strong, with a very good game sense and great reflexes when it came. You saw that flick on over to the Frost head, so winning that out is very, very strong. We're going to stay on that second floor as Musketeers opting to kind of stay here, and now we're seeing the Flores. The first time that I'm guessing both of us have probably seen the Flores in competitive play. How do you think he's going to be utilized? I mean, you look at the utility of that Musketeers. Is Flores just going to be used for, info? Is he going to be used for utility now or kills? Or how do you think that MA1 is going to be, or Mal, is going to be using this Flores?
Yes. Yes.
Yes, all of those.
Yes, all of the above. All of the above, because, I mean, Flores does have such a unique gadget. I mean, it's a Twitch drone that blows up, but is indestructible when it blows up. I mean, it's literally the craziest thing I think I've ever seen in this game. And it does a lot. It has a huge scope of abilities. Of course, like you said, intel, right? It can deal damage. It can take those defenders out of their positioning and force them to rotate, potentially into the hands of the attackers. I mean, it's so important to use, especially on Chalet, like we had said previously, in a map where you need to be posted up in those specific positions, otherwise you lose out a grand scheme of things. But regardless, I think Flores is going to be absolutely huge. I also think Zero, more importantly, is going to be huge too. I've seen Zero being played in these games before, and not only does he have that ability to take out the defender utility, but intel too. It's huge. Absolutely crazy.
Thinking of Flores, Flores is probably the most recreatable gadget in Rainbow Six. A great shot by Omega, but I mean, you look at Flores, he's literally an RC car with a C4, and you could probably win that. But I'm gonna stop talking about Flores, because it's obviously Zofia that is doing the work here. 2 kills, and it's gonna be the Flores, obviously, who picks up that slack, getting that 3rd kill, and now it's just Alex and Uber trying to get something as Alex is taken out, and it's just Uber on the Solarium stairs, taking out Omega, not gonna be able to get that 2nd person, and Tide Pods, a very, very strong attack, and winning that out, making sure that they are in the lead going into the 2nd round of the split.
Wow. That was a pretty insane round, I'm not gonna lie. I mean, Tide Pods played their cards out correct. They played them out very right. I'm sure they droned themselves out and said, hey, I mean, this area is basically free. There's not a whole lot of people on site. The roamers that are off site aren't necessarily in a place to be able to rotate, especially if we start to get on them, so let's do that. It was a very well-made game plan, and I think that Tide Pods, with their mechanical skill, really just pulled it out, and we're able to win out the round. I mean, we had Omega coming in, I mean, just absolutely insane. That 2.0 does not lie for the Zofia. And, yeah, I think that's basically the round summed up.
Okay, now going back to what I said, talking about Flores.
Oh, yeah.
Look, Flores is probably, like I said, the most recreatable operator and gadget in Rainbow Six. All you need is literally an RC car and then a stick of dynamite or something like that, and then you roll it around and blow it up.
Okay, but where are you gonna get the RC car?
That's your question.
See, yeah,
that's your question. I said
that is my
not
yeah.
So obviously dynamite's very accessible for you, but not the RC
yeah
car.
I mean, of course, I live in a place where dynamite is very accessible.
Okay, well, you know,
where are you getting the RC car, huh?
Walmart. Probably where you could also get dynamite, but
yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying. You get pre-approved for dynamite at Walmart.
Of course.
You can
so make sure when we meet each other, you show up with the Flores cosplay. Just don't blow anything up, alright?
I'll walk in and they'll hand me a stick of dynamite off the bat, like no questions asked.
God bless America.
God bless America.
We're saying as we're casting Canadian Contenders League.
God bless Canada. Oh my gosh. Okay, well, getting back on into it, we got the Zero coming in with the cams. Absolutely beautiful thing, right? I mean, it's basically a black eye that I believe it can take out utility, obviously, but I want to say it can be picked up. I believe it can be picked up.
I don't believe it can be picked up.
It can't be picked up? Aw, man. Well, regardless, it can go through reinforced walls, which is a huge buff to attacker-sided. All things attacker-sided, I should say, being that it can take out those pesky defender utility gadgets, whatever you want to call them. Just absolutely huge for that. We see, though, Mal, he'll be getting some damage dealt to him. In fact, it's a death, as we see Omega picking off the player of Valkyrie, that one roamer. Unfortunately, not getting too many kills, but still dealing a whole lot of damage in terms of intel. And yet, our Maverick is going to go down. Very sad occurrence, but we still got the Habana left up on the board to pick off that master office wall.
We're just waiting our time here. Now we're seeing that Habana charge is going onto the wall. It's something that Musketeers really weren't able to do. They weren't really able to use the hard breach to open that wall up, get some real good utility play. But now as Mute Jammers are getting destroyed, Tide Pods looking pretty strong. It's still about a minute left. There's a lot of utility for them to open the wall on up, clear out utility, win these gunfights. Is it still Omega has been the person to open up and continue the round over and over and over again, and still my eyes are on them just to continue their streak. 12-6. I don't know if it's possible for them to get the 20 bomb, but the way that they are playing, definitely achievable. So now we're reaching the point where Tide Pods have kind of hit a wall here.
They have hit a little bit of a wall. They're at that linchpin spot that we have been talking about so feverishly at this point. We see a lot of players from Musketeers are looking to kind of make their peaks to try to ward off the players of the attack, and it's going back and forth so far. You take off one player, but another player takes the killed player's place, I want to say. I know it sounded a little bit weird, but you get exactly what I mean. It's going to be Terrorfish, though, coming from behind the piano, and of course the attack doesn't have enough intel to go on in and make those correct assumptions, and because of that, we got the SMG-11 coming on in and being able to take the kills for the defense. The defense obviously had a little bit more intel than the attack, especially knowing those exact markers of the attackers, but hey, I mean, such is life. It's the way it goes.
Yeah, it seems every time that a team, gains one round, the other side just has to get another one. It's, back and forth. And it makes for a really, really engaging and interesting best of ones. Like, obviously, best of ones can be a 7-0, let's go home. Let's go take a nap. We've earned our rest. But now, these teams honestly look like they will go the yard. This overtime, 8-7, making you sure that it's a little bit of a nail-biter. You really don't know who's going to come out on top. And I think going over this basement side, this honestly could be the difference, because we saw that Tide Pods weren't exactly able to defend this basement side. That round was a Musketeer win through and through, and it just looked like Tide Pods had no clue what they were doing. If Musketeer can get this win, they will honestly look like the better team on Chalet, simply because they can defend all of these sites. They'll get that advantage, and then once the site refreshes, they can go back to which site they prefer. So Musketeers, this is a very big round for them, showing that they can have a bit of a difference than Tide Pods.
So, in terms of what can be expected in this round, I honestly think that Tide Pods is going to go for a little bit of vertical play. Now, Omega is basically the only player that has those breach charges, but I mean, you think about it, right? Just even a little bit of vertical play could be extremely useful to Tide Pods. They're going to be above, they're going to be trying to get any angle that they can into this site. Of course, they're going to be going for a little bit of that reinforced wall play. You got a lot of players who can hit up those reinforced walls, and I don't know. I mean, I genuinely think that this could be a huge round for Tide Pods, given that they use every single one of their given abilities.
I want to mention that Musketeer's not running the mute, so the Flores and all of these drones, these zero cameras, really able to use everything with pleasure. I mean, all you have to be aware of is these bullets. We just saw one of the Flores drones get taken out, another one missed out, and so now you can just see utility is now located out, and probably a Flores drone going to be destroyed. I think it got shot out, but not what I have to say, Elliot. That's not the best spot to really put down a deployable shield, because now you're dead, and your team loses shields and a C4, and now the walls open up. We see Terrorfish taking down Tide Pod. Now the site is there, so that probably not a great decision on the side of Elliot. But now you see Uber having to sadly end their own teammate's life. It's a casualty of war. But now Tide Pods having an extreme two-man advantage, plus almost all of one.
Right. I mean, they almost have all of wine. They're obviously going to make the plant going on. There's a huge line of sight going on into the connector. Simon, though, will be picking off one, I believe, from afar. It was a very nice kill from him, but you got Coffee picking off the player of Alex. And again, Mal, he's picking off another player. Got Uber, though. He's the remaining player left up on the board in a 1v3 intense scenario. But with a whole lot of crossfire angles being held, it's a chance that was not taken with great pleasure for the defense. That remaining player was picked off very, very easily.
So we see on both sides that basement site was a little bit of a struggle. Both of them seem to not have exact control over everything. Musketeers, though, they're staying here. They're staying on this defensive side. And to me, that is... Are they bringing a mute instead? I think that might be the great play, the great switch, is to bring over that mute to stop, these Flores drones, stop this utility now, because allowing the Flores really to destroy these bandit batteries and everything really disrupted them. So that could possibly be the change that allows them to win the round. But still, you still see the Maverick. You still allow that, these plays to go through. Actually, there's not going to be a Maverick this time around. There's going to be, the Zero, the Yana still being everything, but the Capcan, what? Why is there a Capcan in play, Jenna?
Well, my best guess is trying to get another angle of play against the attackers, right? Capcan is a little bit of that kind of, I want to say wild card operator, because once you figure out that there's a Capcan or get damaged by a Capcan, of course you are not going to, be unwary of the Capcan traps. You're going to know that there's a Capcan lying around in a boot somewhere, as the Canadians say it, and of course you're going to want to take out his entry denial devices. But if you don't know that there's a Capcan trap, that's where the fun comes to play, because he can take a lot of damage away from your team, even going to the lengths of killing another teammate, while also denying you of a specific doorway and forcing you to potentially use utility that is very precious to you in order to take out those little traps. So honestly, it could be very huge for this Capcan to be in play, being that Tide Pods does have a lot of utility to expend, and every utility that is expended by those Capcan traps is one less utility that can be used by Tide Pods.
I think now we're finally seeing the usage of that mute jammer. You just see that wall, the Yana clone, the Flores drone, everything is denied simply by the mute jammer. It's so strong. Oh, excuse me. It's so strong. And it's just a simple gadget, a simple trick that, attackers hate him. Look how this defender stopped the attack with one simple gadget. As now we're seeing Musketeers having a lot stronger of a defense as now the Flores drone, but now as the mute jammer is gone, I think that was the C4 of Terrorfish now destroyed defender utility, and now that's going to allow, while you do have Boobit down and Omega takes a huge chunk of damage, you are going to have these walls opened on up. So was that a net positive trade, honestly? The losing Boobits, but now these walls are opened on up.
We don't even necessarily know if it's going to be a net positive trade until the round has been won by Tide Pods. So, the wall is open right now. They have a potential way into the site. They have a lot of crossfire angles being held. You have a player all the way from the connector being killed off by Omega. So I feel like it is a net positive trade, right? Because that wall being open holds so much power for the attack. They got a decent bit of kills from it, but of course, there isn't a whole lot of players to be speaking upon. It's still alive. They got the ace, and you got Omega holding from afar, still alive, and their best chance at winning out this round is going to be heading on into Wine Cell. They don't necessarily know if there's somebody sitting on in that blue hallway with the pipes, but what they do know is that there's a lot of angles being held, and they're going to want to watch those with a stone hawk eye. You got Uber, though. He'll be peeking on out, making that crossfire occur. Zig, he's going to be picking off one with the AK-12, but in return, getting killed by Uber with the AUG. There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. That is Defenders winning out round 10 in Wine Cellar and Snowmobile. That's a monumental round for us.
Yeah, so now Musketeers winning that out. They are going to even it on up, and now going straight over to the second floor, keeping the mute. I think the mute is a very, very integral operator, simply because Tide Pods are choosing to go with the Flores. Mute, the single greatest counter to both the Flores and the Twitch, simply because they really can't do anything about it. Twitch can destroy mute jammers from afar, but Flores, I don't believe his explosion actually reaches the vicinity of a mute jammer, so he has no way of getting around that. But Tide Pods, they're actually opting to go with the Ash instead of the Flores, so a different type of utility denial. Instead of a drone, it's a grenade launcher. Same thing, different execution.
Same thing, different display. Launch method. Sure. Different launch method. That's funny. Different launch method, yes. Office and Master Bedroom is going to be our next site. We see a Zero being played out once again. I just absolutely love the Zero play. I do love it because not only does it afford you so much intel when you do need it, especially on the site, but it also grants you that extra layer of utility denial, especially when you do need it on this site. Out of all things, you have a lot of players doing utility denial, such as the Mute, you got the Maestro, you got, I want to say obviously you got the Jaeger, but of course, you have a lot of operators that can effectively counter things for the attack, but you got the Zero that plays directly against that, which is, in effect, one of the most powerful things you can have on your team. So really putting that into execution is going to be a huge thing for Tide Pods, at the very least.
Yeah, winning this round, I think we're at the point where these rounds are so definitive that one round, it puts them at match point and it puts so much pressure on the opposing team. So if Musketeers are able to win this defensive side, go over to Bar and Gaming, that's going to look extremely good. But if they lose this, going back over to the same site twice, it has worked out for Musketeers so far, but it's still something you really don't want to rely on. It's something that it's very flimsy. Obviously, you're able to lose so easily. So Musketeers, you want to make sure that you waste so much time, as we're seeing a little bit of a standoff here on these trophy stairs, as Omega has made a little bit of a hole just to try to catch anyone going up the stairs. They haven't found anyone, as Tide Pods now going to slowly start making their way towards Solarium to try. I believe that's where they're going to try to get this execution, but there's a lot of repellents. Now we're going up the stairs. Ellie going to take out MA1 and Coffee as well. And now Musketeers having a huge advantage, as Mal is going to be that person who's only second to Omega as Elliot goes down.
Yeah, huge window play coming on out for Omega with the drone in hand. Very, very nice read of the play, being able to kill off that Mute. And that is one less player that you have to go up against, especially concerning that bathroom, being that you got the Maestro sitting there with the all-powerful Alda. And all these players are split up, but I feel like they're still playing together, right? You got a player sitting on the Solarium stairs. You got a player in wait on the windows. It's all about holding those crossfire angles, but at one point you're going to have to make the execution readily available, and I feel like that's something that Tide Pods is truly struggling with, and something that they're going to have to figure out as for what to do in the next coming just about 30 seconds in this little 20-second meta that they've got going for themselves. And of course, crossfire angles coming out strong. You got the Alda picking off the player of Ace, and still a 2v4. Chances are looking less and less favorable for Tide Pods as time ticks down for them, and Omega seems to be getting less and less health at just as well. Don't have Diffuser in hand quite anymore, and with a very well-placed peek, you got Omega going off the board, and there you have it. Boobith just as well in a 1-1 kill feed.
So now having that match point, now the pressure is on. It's an extremely exciting kill cam. It was a trade that ended the round. So
yes. Yeah, I said 1-1 kill feed. I meant to say trade. Just don't.
That is a trade. A 1-1.
It makes sense. Listen. I haven't been casting for months. Okay.
You finally found how to turn your microphone on.
I finally found the cord to my microphone. It was hidden underneath my, I don't know, my bed. Maybe we'll say my bed.
All right.
And
welcome back.
I just learned how to talk again. It was a really hard process. It was a very, very long journey.
That's okay. We're here for you, and you get to do that with me, McCready, everybody on Canadian Contenders League.
Yes.
So.
Yes, I love it. Well. We got Barn Games up next for our potentially last sight we see between Musketeers and Tide Pods. It has been a very, very long journey. 12 rounds to be exact. Yes, I've been counting. And I think that this round could be 50-50. I'm going to say it. It's going to be 50-50 because Tide Pods is going to have to bank on their ability to get through the choke points, the bottlenecks, the vertical control, basically everything that Musketeers is going to throw at them with this site, and then on top of that, make and execute on what is known to be a more so attacker-sided site. It's still going to be a very huge challenge, a very big undertaking for Tide Pods. But another weird thing that we're going to be seeing is that Doc play. You want to talk about that one?
Yeah, Doc. We haven't seen a lot of Doc, especially because, his big draw used to be the ACOG on the MP5. He lost that. Now he only has the 1.5, but he still has, that self-heal. We're focusing on the Doc, we should be focusing on the Jaeger getting that opening kill onto Zigalo. Not even so early, you just see running out on that basement side, and as Coffee gets their legs caught in a frost trap. Things are just not going well for Tide Pods. I think they know that Ubisoft Forward starts in 2 minutes. They want to get on going, want to tune that in. It starts in just 2 minutes, and right now somebody's got to get Coffee up. There's nobody on that side, so they should be able to get that revive, but still, you lose a lot of health, and you just seem that little bit more paranoid. And that's something that booming the mental of the enemy team is very, very important in the team-based game, because now Tide Pods are going to be a lot more apprehensive and just cautious, and now it's something they really can't afford as they're down around.
I mean, yeah, I totally agree with you on that one, right? Tide Pods, their mental is a little bit shocked right now. They have their huge hard breach player down, just for starters, and on top of that, you have a Zero with not as much health as you would like, and right now they're trying to get through that choke point. They're trying to move on through, take out as much utility as they can in the process of that, while also being able to take out the players sitting on the stairs, that Frost, which with that shield being taken out, that player is going to have to rotate back on down, but you still have somebody sitting up on top floor. Yep, you got that Ella sitting behind another shield, holding a beautiful crossfire, being able to take out 2 players at the same time. But it'll be a 2v4 as we see a player unfortunately getting picked off from the stairs. That's your Frost going down, so at least one angle has been relieved for the attack, but still in a 1v4 you got another angle to worry about. One player gets killed and another one takes his place, and there you have it, the Ella Scorpion picking off the remaining player of Coffee in a 360. It's, circling back. The player to get killed first is the player to get killed last for Musketeers versus Tide Pods. It's a 7-5, ladies and gentlemen, as we finish up this first best of 1.
Yeah, and I think finding that momentum late was extremely important coming on through for Musketeers, winning that basement side, putting the pressure onto those attackers. It made so important, and sadly, Omega are coming through 16 and 10. It's just not going to be enough. Welcome back, Creedy. I hope you enjoyed that match. I mean, we sure did, casting Chalet for the first time. Jenna's first time back. It was a great match to watch.
Oh yeah, it was a lot of fun to look at. I really enjoyed watching it, but I do have a couple of questions. I've been a little bit tired, so I was hoping you guys could kind of fill me in. Jenna, when we look at that game, it definitely felt like we saw Tide Pods constantly taking the early advantage, the early momentum, and then Canadian Musketeers in the last couple of rounds, they just turned it around. What do you think was a big shift there?
Well, I definitely think it was all about the side swap. I definitely think it was a side swap, because we know that the defense has a favor on any single map that they go into. We had spoken about that previously, and even though this is a technically, attack-sided map and it's more balanced, I still think that the attack has less of a monopoly than the defense ever will just because of the fact that there's so much utility to be played. All they have to do is sit in one spot and hold it correctly, and with the things that Tide Pods was doing, it just seemed to be that they were falling apart towards the end, and Musketeers, with their same exact setups, with their same exact utility placements, they were getting away with the things that they were doing, and they were able to improve every single round what they were doing, whereas Tide Pods wasn't really changing up too much. They weren't trying to shift the game, they weren't trying to make in-game adaptations, which truly costed them towards the end.
Those in-game adaptations, something that I actually want to bring over to Light Rose, because I want to say, you know, that's something that Jenna has just talked about. Obviously, we look at these in-game adaptations come out from Canadian Musketeers. Every time they defended, they went to a site, lost it, and then brought it back afterwards. What do you think some of these key adaptations were? You talked a little bit about some of the operator picks.
Yeah, I mentioned that the mute was just so strong. Stopping the Flores was a very big part. Earlier in the second half of the split, Flores was brought every single round. There was not really a mute that was able to stop it, and all you could really rely on was bullets, and that wasn't enough. We saw that Tide Pods were able to get those Ronin, use it, destroy the utility, and just absolutely disrupt anything that Musketeers had. And once they swapped with the mute, I think we saw those last two rounds were wins on their side. We saw that, you know, Jenna mentioned the split, the defense, you know, they were able to hold back, take their engagements how they want, whether they're able to, you know, waste time, be super aggressive like we saw in the last round with that run out. And right now it's just about, you know, Jenna mentioned it was this side of the split, making sure they're shutting down these operators that really had an oppressive hold on you. And now it just seems that it was enough. Tide Pods, sadly, they go down to the losers bracket.
Yeah, really saw in the loser bracket. It's not what you want to be on the first round, but like we said before, there is still that chance of redemption, bringing it back and moving forward. Whereas Canadian Musketeers, they're going to be moving through to the next stage of round 2 against Niagara Falls Esports, returning from the first qualifiers. Very quick update for you. We're looking at Ember Rose, Esports, and Shinigami. And it was a pretty dominant game, a 7-2 victory for Shinigami. We'll be covering them next, of going up against the Swole Patrol, but we are going to be taking a very, very short 10-minute break. You have a little bit of time, like Light said, Ubisoft Forward is starting, maybe have a look towards that, maybe grab a drink, grab a snack, well, it's up to you, but in 10 minutes, I sincerely hope you're back here very soon. Bye-bye. Hello, and welcome back to the Canadian Contenders League, and Qualifier 2, we've already had one, a very explosive game, a 7-5 on Chalet between Tide Pods and the Canadian Musketeers. Giraffe, Jenna, you covered that first game, but tonight we have somebody else on the desk, as Light Rose has to go for personal reasons. Not exactly sure what, but I'm sure she's going to watch the rest of this, because, well, why wouldn't you? Wes, you're new to the scene, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, because I haven't worked with you yet.
Sure. So I guess to say the main thing, I'm actually a middle school teacher, so that's my primary thing that I do. So I've been kind of working my way into the esports scene. I've only been doing this since maybe October, November. So I kind of worked my way up. You know, I heavily involved with the SFCL, so that's kind of where it all starts for me. And then from there, you know, now just getting into casting more, trying to get better at it. And I guess my main thing is I love this game specifically. You know, for esports, I love Siege. I've been playing Siege for like, you know, almost since it came out. So I just love this game. I'll do whatever I can to support the community. So I'm just happy to be here.
That's great to hear, but this does raise a very interesting question for me. It's one I've also asked to another caster that I know in the UK scene who is a teacher as well. What happens if somebody clicks on the stream and hears your voice? What's the plan?
What's the plan? I mean, no big deal to me, right? I'll just, you know, I'll be straightforward with them. Oh yeah, I do that, and you know, I think that's a good connection piece anyway. You know, video games in general, but also technologies have been in every household now almost. I think like 4 out of 5 households have video games in their house, maybe more than that now. So these kids are growing up with it, so it's a really good way to connect with them, and also, you know, it's a viable option more now, and it will become more of a viable option as, you know, years go on. So getting them involved would also be pretty cool.
Yeah, that sounds great. Honestly, I'm really happy to bring you on and get you going with Jenna. Now, Jenna, let's look towards the actual game that we're going to be watching today. Shinigami and Swole Patrol, yet again, 2 teams that we're kind of a little bit unsure about. I'm personally, at least. I'm not sure about yourself, but best of 1, based on that last game, what are you probably expecting? What types of maps, if you were in their position going into a best of 1?
Well, honestly, I really can't predict anything with maps because I don't know much about these teams. I don't know much about Shinigami. I don't know much about Swole Patrol. But what I do know is that we just saw a barn burner of a map of Chalet. It was absolutely amazing. I mean, there was a lot of strategy going on. There was a lot of back and forth. It was a very head-to-head, very balanced map. Just seeing that, I honestly would love to see a different map than Chalet, just to, you know, get a little bit of variety in the mix. So, I'm going to say, I want to see Oregon, or I want to see maybe Villa, or, you know, Cafe, whatever map. Just definitely not Chalet again. I honestly, it is a pet peeve of mine to be casting maps over and over and over again, all in one day, just because of the fact that it can be so repetitive, and it's just seeing the same exact rounds played over and over and over again. But regardless, even if they do choose Chalet, I will still find a way to love the map.
Playing into the statistics when it comes to the maps, and now we will be able to see if that is correct. We're going to bring these map bands, we'll see exactly where we're going. The big question is it going to be Chalet again? Probably not, let's be honest. No, the second band to come through, we are going to be heading to that Villa, so you played the statistics, Jenna. You got the odds right, but you also picked another 2 or 3 maps alongside, so at the end of the day, the odds were in your favor. Now, Wes, we're looking at Villa. What are your thoughts about this?
I love Villa, actually. This is my favorite map in the pool right now. I think it might be the most balanced map. I think when you look at how utility plays out, you know, you typically be bringing some shields into the defense, but no side really has that advantage, right? We've seen some stronger sites, aviation games, but then we've seen the second site's always a little more questionable. The percentage win in Pro League for the trophy statue is not very good, so I might even see some more, you know, switches in their second bomb site to maybe down in the kitchen area. I wouldn't be surprised to see that, but you got to figure out what are you going to do to find those extra rounds on defense to at least keep it even? Because after aviation in games, it's kind of hard to know what one's going to be strong.
Yeah, I feel like it is. It does follow the very linear setup of trophy, of aviator games, trophy, and then kitchen dining. But what I really want to look forward to on this map is the fact that, in my eyes and my experience, I've looked at Villa as a very defender-sided map. But with that 20-second meta being taken away, a good, aggressive attacking team can upset everything. They can make it attacker-sided, and then they just have to have a decent defensive lineup. Jenna, we're going to be taking a look at the rosters and the names, and if you can talk us through and point out any ones we might want to actually look out for. There are a few names that some people might know, probably at least one that somebody knows around there.
Well, I mean, looking at all of these names, I think Mac, I really want to say Mac is a name that I've seen before. Cam, I'm pretty sure I've seen that around. I mean, I've seen a million different names, ranging all the way from T3 going into Pro League. I've seen a ton of different names, so I'm a big forgetter. And my memory is not the best, but I do love to say these names in game, and I'm probably going to mess them up a million different times, a million different ways. So for, at least for that part, excuse me on that one, but I do have to say that, these names are looking pretty nice, and I'm sure the players attached to them will be even better.
Yeah, so we are looking to get that last player into the lobby. So yet again, I'm going to say goodbye, but beforehand, Jenna, the one question I'm going to leave you with before I shoot off is this. What's the weirdest name you've casted? For me, I think Matt Bonga's pretty high up on there.
Well, I just casted a game with a player named Boobith, so
I'll take that.
That's probably one of the weirdest names I have ever casted. I think I've casted somebody with like a curse word in their name, and that I had to play around that. And I've also pronounced a million different names wrong. So honestly, I don't even know. I think
Boobus is a good pick. But anyway, like I said, I'm going to leave you guys. You guys can start talking about Villa. And Wes, obviously, you said you love this map. So you've talked a little bit about Trophy Statue. What do you really want to see on the defense? As I will say goodbye.
All right. Well, we've talked about this before. It really depends on what the bans will end up being. So I'd see Goyle was brought pretty frequently if he's not banned. Right, so I would expect to see his shields being brought. Can buy you a lot of time. There's a lot of good positions out in the hallways where you can place those shields, choke points, burn more time, and then maybe even some life, once you shoot the Vulcan shields. So I think that's pretty heavy. And then the other thing to keep in mind is, will Valk be banned? Her ban rate has gone up a lot. If it's not banned, certainly something that you can bring on this map. There's a lot of good places to put the cams.
I definitely agree with you on that one. I'm gonna have to second that. Saying, Goyo, Valkyrie, kind of staying in that area. I'm gonna say Mozzie too. He's a pretty big operator, especially going into Trophy and Stat. Those are pretty big picks for him. Especially because when you play Mozzie in those, in that specific site, you get to play him in a large range of areas, not just even on site, but you can play him in Aviator, you can play him in games, try to kind of, play off of the attacker's intel, try to keep them away from you as long as possible if they're going for a horizontal push, or you could even play below and try to stop them there. I mean, it is just a million different ways to play Mozzie, and I mean, on top of that, we're probably going to see our normal suspects like Smoke, Mute, all of that wall denial like we normally do, Kaid if he's not banned, stuff like that. But, are you ready to get into the game? Because I definitely am.
Oh yeah. I'm definitely ready here. Expect to see the Thatcher ban. If you didn't, that'd be weird, right? Almost always banned. So expect to see him taken off the board out of the way, and he will be. Now, the other ban here will be the real question, right? Is it going to be a Jackal? Because this is a map where you can really roam, go all the way to the basement, right? People don't always expect you to go down there and come up another set of stairs, like going up Astro to flank. But on the other hand, maybe you want to make it really hard to get the walls open, so you'll ban the Maverick out. I don't know. There's a lot of different possibilities there. But on defense, I would be surprised to see Valkyrie go through.
Ace. I'm not surprised by that ban for sure, because Hard Breach is definitely a huge priority on Villa out of all things. And what better Hard Breacher to take off the board than Ace? He's got a huge range of capabilities. I mean, he's got not only a ranged Hard Breachable ability, but he also does have a pretty big hole that he creates, and you can place them virtually anywhere. So it's really a nice utility to have on your team. Unfortunately, one that will be taken away. We got Valkyrie, though. She's going to be coming off the board next. Not a huge surprise out of that one either. Valkyrie being able to place her little black eye cameras in nooks and crannies of Villa really poses a huge threat to any attacking side. So taking her out, simply just a smart move.
And Mira, yep, kind of what I thought would be the case. Almost always banned on this map too. Very strong in aviation games, right? Just throw it on, looking towards study in the aviation room, and then that's really locked down. And you really have to try and force your way through the top of red stairs and through statue and such. In this case, you don't have to worry so much about that. You have a little more versatility in what you want to do for a push. But I still will say I'm just not a huge fan of the study push. Usually doesn't work out very well. So hopefully we'll see the other side pushing in through the top of red and getting control of 90. It's kind of more standard, I think, nowadays. But with the ace off the board, what are they going to bring for their hard breach now? And so far, nothing.
Nothing, but it's a little bit of a 6-pick situation going on here. I'm not quite sure what's going to happen there. We got Habana on the board, so yeah, you were you're kind of right there. I mean, we actually will be seeing some hard breachers being picked, but another 6-pick, which is even more curious, is going to be that castle pick, being that we're going to be heading on over to a tertiary site. Before the match, we were talking a little bit about that linear fashion that we normally see. Aviator, stat trophy, then we see kitchen. But it seems like Soul Patrol has turned that dynamic up, flipped it on its head. They said, no, we're going to go to the tertiary site first, and we're going to go there with confidence. They chose to do the 6-pick for the castle, and they said, let's do this. So I'm really excited to see what kind of utility can be played and how it's going to be played and to what effect it will have.
Right, you mentioned before the defense kind of sets the tone, right? They get to play the clock. The attackers have to come to them. Well, you can set the tone a lot of different ways. Here, they're going to set the tone by going to a different bomb site than you would expect, trying to catch the attackers off guard. And we mentioned before, you aren't allowed to switch, unless 2-6 pick, of course. Like we're seeing, the change might come through right after during the droning phase. You can switch your op, right? That hasn't come through yet, so you're kind of stuck with your lineup. That way, if you saw a lineup, you expect a certain bomb site. Now they're maybe throwing you off a little bit. So kudos to Swole Troll trying to throw them off. We'll see if it works out, though, as the entry has already come into the building, already getting control over on the study side of things, and they're going to have to contest with the player on top of red if they want to start getting that vertical pressure.
Anna's going to start her runoff, trying to get as much intel as she possibly can on the south side of the map. Going on in here, we got the castle moving on off of his position, trying to get back on into the objective. Definitely a good move for him, as you see the attackers are very hot on his heels. But it seems to be that the defenders, they're moving pretty quickly on away from the objective. They're trying to keep their lives while also maintaining a little bit of gunfire. Crosses going on here, but still looks like they're going to have to try to make a move as quick as humanly possible, because if the attackers get a hold of them, most likely, more than not, they are going to kill them, and you do not want to waste a life like that. Otherwise, you're going to have to kill the attackers yourselves, and that could be a very hard move to make. You see the first defender has indeed dropped. That'll be your aggro going down up onto the first floor, and the second defender has died. That's Ray, unfortunately, going down. The man with the Alda, as now with about 1:30 left on the clock, you see a lot of vert being played out, and it'll be the attackers to pick up the top floor and a kill while they're at it.
Dia getting a refrag pretty quickly there with the C4 from below, but he's still in a man disadvantage. Aggro also took a lot of damage above and then had to retreat, and now Dia taken off the board by TG1. 2v4 situation. These defenders already looking like they weren't getting the time that they wanted. They are down to a minute now, but 2-man disadvantage, probably not worth the trade-off. We're going to see the vertical pressure probably start to come through, but with the buck off the board, they're going to have to start using some of these breaching charges in Sophia's pocket if they want to do that. And she's not even above right now, so I'm not quite sure what the plan will be, where they're going to reposition themselves on the attack. But so far, just trying to find the right angles. Phoenix finding a nice shot onto aggro, and now Creepery, all on their lonesome in a 1v4 situation. Hard to lock down the site when you're by yourself, and over here in Memorial, plant will start coming down. TG1 taking a lot of damage, but not quite taken out. Finally finished off, but in the meantime, plant will be finished. Kenji Meister going to finish the kill as well, and that's going to be a win for Shinigami. The site did not throw him off too badly. They win the first round.
Right? I mean, I'm a little bit surprised that they didn't get thrown off a little bit more by that site. They were able to kind of come together really quickly and say, hey, this is the site, this is the attack move that we need to do, and understand that their operators were still going to be interchangeable no matter what site that they went. And they made that a plan very quickly, and they put it into execution. I mean, that is the best thing that you can hope for in terms of an attacking team. And on Villa, out of all places, normally I'm going to say, pretty relatively balanced map, it gave the attackers a lot of opportunities to get on into the objective with that tertiary site being picked.
Yeah, well, they're going to not go for it again here. They're going to go to the Aviation Gaming, so the site we consider probably the strongest one on this map. So they're not going to risk it again. Obviously, the other thing that we talk about a lot as casters, especially talk with Infernosis and Fellow, they always talk about how they hate teams repeating the same bomb sites because you've already shown your hand. And I tend to agree with them in most cases, especially when your defense was pretty well picked apart like we just saw. So for them to go to this bomb site makes a lot of sense to me. I am curious, though, what is the roam game going to be here? You don't want to give up too much map control too quickly, and it looked like they weren't able to hold off last time as long as they probably would have liked.
I'm going to play devil's advocate to your point there, because, I mean, I think you're totally right in the sense that if they showed their hand, why go there again with the same exact play? But at the same time, yeah, the whole definition of insanity. But I still think that if you change and tweak things just a little bit, it could be an entirely different outcome. You know what I mean? And plus the attack most likely won't even be expecting it. So I feel like there could be a whole lot of value in taking the opportunity to say, hey, we're going to try this again. We saw it a lot on the previous map of Chalet, and it seemed to be working out a whole lot for whichever team went to whatever site. Not once, but twice. But again, it's, of course, theory, it's spitballing, as we normally do as casters, but we see that Phoenix will be picking off one, and TG1 grabbing up another. Shinigami being very firmly in the driver's seat at this moment with the 5v3 scenario. They're going to be moving on up main stairs, but oh my word, Phoenix coming on in with a triple kill. One into the head and the other with penetration through the wall. Kenji Meister finding the final player with the AK-74 for a flawless round for the attackers. It just seems like the defenders are lost at this point.
Yeah, they look lost, and Phoenix just dominating on that entry. We've seen the entry kill coming in on the side of Shinigami both rounds, and it just kind of sets the tone for the rest of the round. The kills just keep falling in their favor more and more after that opening kill. And so I think Swole Patrol are going to have to find a way to get that opening kill. They need to put themselves in that man advantage early in a round, and so far these first two rounds definitely has not been the case. Curious to see what adjustments they're going to make, but they're going to go and try that bomb site again. Now, you mentioned how this could be good, and I agree. I'm always open-minded, right? I'm not going to say it's always bad to repeat a site, right? Like, that's not true. The proof is in the pudding, right? If you can make it work, you can make it work. But I will say there is always that risk, right? That you are going to try and do the same thing. They're going to read into it, and it's just going to go the same way it went, or it'll go worse. There's always that possibility, but can't really go much worse than what we just saw. Not to be mean in saying that, but that was just domination on the side of Shinigami.
Honestly, don't think that you were being mean with that. It's just the truth. I feel like there's definitely a difference with being with being mean and saying the truth. And right then and there, my friend, that was just the truth. It was complete domination. You saw it in big, I want to say yellow or orange letters, something like that. Flawless round. You saw that in big bold letters. Flawless round. That has to put a damper on the mental of Swole Patrol. That has to do a number to them, at the very least. And not sure how they're going to find their way back from this, but going to the same site, hey, it very well could work out for them, given that they aren't playing too aggressive and they aren't showing their hand too early in the round.
Well, time is going to be taken this time. They're not going to enter into the building immediately. Ira holding a nice angle. They don't drone him properly. Could get a kill, but it looks like they did catch him on it, and they're going to get the shot. Catboy, what a nice entry kill, but the refrag is right there. Ray playing really close to their teammate. I like the roam game when you have a buddy next to you. Now it's going to be a 1v1, and he's going to win another fight. Kenji Meister off the board. This is already looking like a far better round than what we've seen the previous two. Hacker getting a kill onto TG1, and now a 2v4 in the opposite direction. Swole Patrol have complete control and plenty of time left too.
Plenty of time indeed, is about 2 minutes left on the clock, right? We got Phoenix and Twist still left up on the board. They have been doing a whole number on this game so far, but unfortunately it seems to be that Ray will shut down one of those players. We got Phoenix, he's the remaining one up on the board, going 4-0. So he's been doing a little bit in this game, this third round so far, but in a 1v4 situation, not all seems to be, I guess, favorable, we'll say, for Phoenix at this point. We got Refuser down at the other end of the building and just trying his hand. Yeah, he just tried his hand at picking up some kills for himself before he was killed himself. Unfortunately, it just won't happen. You got Ray be picking up a very nice, well-placed headshot, and that's the round for you.
Well, also a quad. Can't forget to mention that.
Quad.
Ray
Oh yeah, a quad.
4K.
Let's go, a quad.
No kills before that either, so good time to turn on the Jets, try and bring your team back into the game. You don't want to lose momentum too much. Being down 2 rounds, not so bad now, only down by 1 round. We're going to see what other bomb site they're going to try. They're going to go to Trophy Statuary. Haven't seen this bomb site from them yet, and I mentioned Goyo in the opening statement of this game. Oh no, Dia has disconnected. I'm wondering what's going on. We're going to try and get them back in the game as soon as possible. But just to highlight that Goyle, he has been brought, I believe, every round so far. At the very least, these last 3 rounds it would be, counting this one. I don't know if he has brought that first round. But either way, a mainstay for sure in this lineup.
Right, I mean, Goyo, you're totally right. He is a definite mainstay in this lineup. But another mainstay in this lineup appears to be Malusi. I've been wanting to talk about Malusi for the past few rounds, but I feel like this is the perfect time to bring it up. Malusi definitely puts a damper on anything that Shinigami does, right? You have to bring utility specifically to take out that Malusi. Otherwise, not only are you going to get that sound cue, but you're going to get slowed down in your attempt to head on over to the objective, and that could be very dreadful for any attempt to make an execute, any attempt to get in a specific choke point. Regardless, Malusi makes a difference. Malusi makes a huge difference, and with those Banshees, I feel as though Hacker, the player who is on Malusi, could do a whole number on the attack, not just with the Banshees, but with the MP5 as well.
Yeah, really good gun. No recoil, right? Just a laser. The other thing to keep in mind, I want to kind of mention, since we're talking about Malusi, is the changes that are going to come, really, in this new season. Now they will open up when you're in the range of the Wub, so they can shoot them instead and destroy them. You don't have to get up and melee them. So I think that'll make courier utility not quite as oppressive. So it makes me wonder what the pick rate will be. Will it go down that much? Is it that big of a deal? I'm not sure. I'm curious to see what the stats will show for that. But the other one, we mentioned Goyle. They were talking about taking away shield, just having the jerry can instead. I'm not so sure I like that option. I really hope they don't do that. Otherwise, I feel like he's just never going to get picked.
I mean, who knows? Who knows? Yeah, we very well. I don't know if I would go to that extent to say he's never get picked, but definitely doing something a little bit different with his pick rate is probably what's going to happen. We see though Phoenix and TG1. TG1ing? I want to say that. I have no clue how to pronounce those names, but regardless, they're heading on in. Yeah, big question. They're heading on in to the bottom floor. They're trying to get on into the kitchen and just trying to make something occur from below the site. Maybe potentially trying to take off a little bit of the utility coming on below. It's definitely a smart idea, you know, maybe even trying to get some intel or attempting to hit the objective from a different area. It's a great idea in theory, but in execution, it could be a very different occurrence, especially being that, you know, you don't necessarily know what's going to happen and which utility is going to be set up until you get there. But we see Phoenix, oh my word, moving on into landing, picking off the player of Ray. Definitely being unseen at the moment. You got a double kill going on for Phoenix, but player coming up from behind is going to be aggro, attempting to kill off the player of Phoenix, but it'll be creepery instead with the Alda coming on in hot, but still a 2-for-1 trade, not the best scenario you can find yourself in for Swole Patrol. Phoenix still just did his damage, did a whole lot of killing going on there in the round.
Yeah, it's just able to walk in, though, and do what they want on the side of Phoenix. So it's just interesting to see them get away with that. They are finally punished. Kenji Master going to get killed onto Hacker, trying to make this man advantage continue on. Can't let Phoenix's work be in vain. A nice shot on the angle, but it's refragged instantly. It was actually just a down onto Kenji. Twist getting that kill onto aggro. And now Creepery had that kill earlier. Now they're going to have to find a few more. It's a 1v3 with that player downed. And pings are going to come out. They're not aware of his position, but a quick miss and then a refrag back onto his face. Catboy gets that kill, and, well, the man advantage certainly was insurmountable.
Yeah, there was nothing that could come back from that one that could save Swole Patrol in any type of situation. But you got Shinigami. They're going to be picking up their third round, moving on to round 5, and we're going to be seeing Trophy and Stat played out, I believe, once again. It's definitely an interesting sight to be seeing played. It's the second sight out of our rotation that we normally talk about, and hopefully we don't see the same exact thing happen where there seemed to be a little bit of a lack of communication going on. We saw Ray get shot, and then we saw, I believe it was another player in the site get shot just as well by Phoenix. It was that 2-for-1 trade sneaking on in, but it didn't seem to be that there was any follow-up to it except for Aggro, who just seemed to be in the area and was making that flank happen. It could have been entirely averted, that crisis, but I don't know, it just Swole Patrol maybe wasn't communicating it correctly, or there was just a little bit of an issue going on in terms of mics, maybe. We don't necessarily know as casters, but what we do know is that hopefully, this time around, it's not going to happen.
Yeah, hopefully. I mean, they kind of just let Phoenix walk in and do what he wanted. And part of the problem is the player on the shield, I think, was looking towards the bedroom. And so he just walks up onto the shield, just doesn't even care about it, just walks up and shoots him in the head. It's like, you're on the shield. Like, that shouldn't happen to you. So, not sure what happened, but hopefully they're just going to be a little bit more cautious of that push in from the study side when you're on this bomb site. Ray trying to get a nice cheeky shot through a bullet hole in study, but nothing is going to be found over there as all the players are going to be pushing from the north side. This might be a quick rush. They're all going to be stacked up over here, jumping through the window, and here it comes. The lion scans, but unfortunately Hacker's going to get that opening kill. Catboy refrag onto Dia, Creeper getting Phoenix, now Catboy onto Ray, Twist onto Crabberry, but Hacker getting Twist and Catboy getting Hacker. This is all just a wave of back and forth, but Orange Shinigami will come out on top.
It's the chaos, baby, and it is the attackers that win that one out. Absolutely beautiful display of the back and forth, right? The killing, the blood, the guts, the headshots going off. But in the end, of course, you did have Shinigami winning that one out in their well-placed rush strategy for round 5. Meow.
Wow. We saw rush strat. You don't see that too often. But hey, it worked out. Yeah, they didn't get that opening kill, but they found their kills soon afterwards. And I don't think that Swole Patrol was at all prepared for that rush. Looks like they were just completely caught with their pants down. And unfortunately, that is going to put them at a 4-1 round disadvantage. This is not where you want to be on defense. We said, before, I know McCready was saying maybe it's defender side. I said maybe it's even. Well, so far, the attackers have just had their way. And now they're going to go back to that bomb site that they had won before. So they still have some hope here. But if they don't get this round, I would say they're in a very dire situation if you're down 5-1 on your defensive ability.
I definitely agree with you on that one, especially being that this game itself is pretty relatively defense-sided. You would expect, at least, for Swole Patrol to be winning out 2 rounds of their defense. Even if they aren't on the favored side by the time their attack rounds roll around, they still want to at least prove that they're in equal competition to Shinigami in some way, shape, or form. So, Swole Patrol finding themselves in a 1-5 scenario, I mean, it is spelling a little bit of a loss for them, but hey, there's always ways to find yourself up on top of that scoreboard once again. It just is going to have to occur in unexpected ways, to say the very least.
It's interesting to see Catboy bring in the DMR. I didn't really recognize that before, but it's not something you'd very often see. But, it has its purpose, right? DMRs still have some utility. They can open damage by themselves. Buck below going to start doing their job. Stop construction from below. Open up these angles. Try and make these defenders uncomfortable in certain key positions that they'd normally be playing. And in the meantime, we're going to see a push coming in from the other teammates of Catboy into the main stairs there. TG1 on the Yana consistently. Phoenix always on that Sophia, bringing all these different utilities. And I think the Gemini clones have really been utilized pretty well so far. I'm curious to see what other information they can glean here before they get this execute. They've already gotten control of the top south side of the building. Phoenix already just going to walk in and get a kill. Ray refragging on the Catboy, and another kill from Creeper on the Twist, so things not going their way anymore. Aggro shuts down Phoenix, and now it's a 2v4 for these attackers. And this is kind of similar to the last time this bomb site was played. These defenders seem to read really well into these attackers. The 2 kills coming out, TG1 and Kenji Master onto Ray and Dia. A refrag from Aggro, so they're going to try and keep that man advantage. A 1v2 now.
For sure. I mean, you gotta... Yeah, you're totally right. I mean, you got a 1v2, but still got about 1:10 left on the clock, so TG does have a little bit of time to play around with. Doesn't have the diffuser quite anymore, but still very well could be a deathmatch scenario for him, or maybe even a plant scenario, given that he finds himself in the hands of that wonderful box. But hey, I mean, we're going to be looking for our next kill, which is going to be on Aggro, either Aggro or Creepery. In the next few moments here, we got TG finding himself one. That's the G36 at its prime work. TG1 and Aggro are going to have to do a 1v1 face-off with one another, but find Aggro, he gets himself right on back into the objective as we see TG looking to find that diffuser sitting on over in the maps area. Looking to find one, though. Oh my word, it's going to be moving on in. TG1, but Aggro doing a clap back all the way through the doorway with a very well-placed pre-fire. That is a kill for that Jaeger, finishing off the defensive round for Swole Patrol.
Yeah, great job from Aggro, getting a triple, I believe, on the round. So just trying to keep his team alive, and it really came down to him clutching out that 1v1. Luckily, the diffuser was down, kind of helped favor his situation there, and he's able to carry it home. Now a 2-4 split, not so bad. I mean, it's not great, but it's certainly not insurmountable, right? We can definitely come back from this round differential. Just a couple rounds here, and then they'll be already back in the game. So looking at the defense now, it's going to be the first defensive round coming out from Shinigami. They have that round advantage, so they're going to be trying to see if they can seal the deal. They're going to that strongest bomb site, arguably at least, and they're going to be bringing a combination we did not see from Swole, which is that Wamaya Jaeger combination, trying to protect the shield probably of smoke, if I had to guess.
Defenders, protect your bombs.
Wamaya Jaeger, but also Ella. You gotta love the Ella being pulled out by Phoenix. Not quite sure if it's Ella Shotgun or Ella Scorpion, but you still gotta love it for the ability to slow down those attackers, give them that audio cue. Not only that, but make them have a little bit of a blurry screen. They got like that little drunk effect going on, and it could give Phoenix a very well needed advantage going into any gunfight, or even just the audio cue needed to know where those pesky attackers are coming from. But regardless, you also get a very nice shield alongside with it, right? You get a way to see those attackers coming from afar, and I mean, hey, it's Ella. You gotta love Ella.
Yeah, I mean, who doesn't? And you mentioned the shield, so shields being the game, that's why Goyle's brought so often. In this case, you can kind of push them out of your lineup. If you bring just other ops, you can bring those shields. Ella going to be one of them with the smoke. So 2 shields, that's about all you need. In this case, Catboy can be super aggressive, though, over and towards the bedroom, which they do hear the sounds, giving away that this is the designated area where the push is going to come through. Now, some wall bang shots come through and do a lot of damage to Aggro, but he's not actually going to be finished off. He's the Jackal, too, so Catboy gonna have to be very careful. If he moves away, he will be located by that scanner. In this case, it doesn't matter. He's gonna get the kill onto Aggro and shut that idea down. Now they have that early man advantage, and this is what Swole Patrol had a hard time doing, getting those opening kills on defense.
They definitely did, but I mean, they still they still managed to find themselves 2 rounds. So I mean, you got to give them the benefit of the doubt on this one. As we see Shinigami, they're still holding up pretty strong. They got Swole Patrol moving on into board, attempting to find their way into landing, but you still got to play around those red stairs, looking to find anyone who walks out into the unscathed area of 90. But Hacker, he'll be finding Phoenix, the mainstay player of Ella, the man going 7 and 5. Absolutely insane performance. Regardless, Still going to be a 4-on-4, so pretty even scoreline at this point. You see TG moving on back as the Lion Charge does indeed come out, looking to spot any players who are within those attackers' reaches. Ray finding one, though, a very nice headshot on Twist, looking to find their way into 90. Got another kill going off the board, though, as Catboy looks to move on back towards 90, and now the attackers officially have control of 90, something that they've been needing for the past minute or so, but they have finally attained it.
Well, Catboy had a triple kill on the round, Ray off the board, and almost finding another one, unfortunately missing those shots, but Diffuser is also going to be down, so he's going to just be able to play Puppy Guard on it. Hacker can't really jump in on this position. The peak is actually going to be punished. Cat is going to be downed. He's going to try and crawl back, see if his friends can help him back up. Creepery going to be over in another location, I believe on Aviator Door, just holding the angle there, but they still do not have that Diffuser, so in a 2v3, they're going to want that, or they're going to have to just move quickly and get these frags, but about 30 seconds remaining isn't a lot of time for them to start getting this execute down. You see Hacker is going to start finally taking control of that 90 area and can pick up that Diffuser whenever they want. Unfortunately, though, time is not favoring them. 20 seconds remaining. Hacker has a little bit of a hole, and he's going to use it to shut down TG in the vault area. And now an easy situation in a 2v2. Grenade is actually going to be a little bit of a fumble, though. It does not fully go in the way they wanted it to. The smoke is going to start choking him out. Catboy on a quad kill. Kenji not going to allow him to have the ace, though. Shuts down Creeper and Shinigami, pulling ahead even further.
And yet, Swole Patrol lagging behind even further just as well. Not something that you want to be seeing from this team as they look to go on to round 8. They're attacking rounds. 2-5 scoreline right now. We are on the precipice of a match point scenario. Shinigami still sitting firm in the driver's seat as they had before in their attacking rounds. And yet, Phoenix will be switching up his operator. He's going to be going Maestro this time around. We don't get to see the Wamai either, but looks to be a little bit of a 6-pick onto Aruni, out of all things. So Maestro to Aruni. That's a little bit of a switch off. So I'm going to ask you, I'm going to throw this one over to you. What do you think about that one?
Well, it's definitely interesting, right? Because you are sacrificing intel in a certain way, because now you don't have really any extra cams on the board. You have the bulletproof being brought by Jaeger. That's all. Otherwise, you're stuck with just the default cams. And there are not that many on this map, and they're not that many near sight, especially. So if you lose man advantage or you find yourself in a clutch situation, you're going to really have to rely on sound cues more than anything. But the trade-off for that is that you now have these Aruni gates, so you will be burning utility. They can always be reactivated as well later in the round after they've been hit by something. And that again, a Niana clone can do that, so at least they might not have to waste that much utility on the attacking side. But hey, you know, that's still a drone from Iana being wasted as well. So whatever the case might be, they have to utilize something to take care of those gates. Otherwise, they're sacrificing health by just pushing straight through them. It's not a bad decision, but I don't know if it's a worthwhile trade.
See the Yana being played once again, as well as the Lion. So you definitely have a little bit of active intel going in the way of the attackers. Something that you'd like to see. I mean, it's not necessarily drones, but hey, at least it is something, right? So it just gives them a little bit of an extra edge. Moving on into the objective, potentially, or at least in the building for this specific scenario. You got the Gemini clone moving on in, trying to spot out exactly where that Jaeger is moving as he now rotates down those red stairs. Good idea on him. Still trying to waste time, but at the same time, his life, which could be a really tough balance for roamers if you think about it. So definitely good on him to make that rotation early on out. And at least give the attackers a little bit more time to think about what they want to do. Got TG1, though, will be taking a little bit more damage than previously expected. Moving on in through to the 4 area. Seems to be that the attackers are trying to take this one a little bit slower, using their utility to their advantage and gaining intel while they're at it.
We've been using a lot of these drones to just keep getting shot. Twist is going to be down, but not quite finished off. Flash Grenade is going to catch the ass, actually, so the teammate getting the flash there, and able to finish the kill. And they have control over here in 90 and top of red for the most part, but not much else is happening yet. It's kind of a lull moment. And Twist still hasn't been helped up. I think they're kind of caught in a corner, so it's a little bit harder. Phoenix will go for that revive now. Ray, in the meantime, pushing up on the statuary door. There's that Iruni gate. We had talked about those before, and they're going to have to clear that if they want to start pushing in. Players have already rotated, though, into the bedroom area. They're going to be playing these angles and just pushing out of sight, just trying to buy more and more time. And so far, it's working out. Only a minute remaining, but the first kill will finally rein in. Ray getting that frag on to Catboy, and a lot of damage being done to these defenders, but still not a second one being found. TG1 finding a kill on the hacker, bringing it back to an even man count. Dia getting the kill and the refrag. Ray finding Kenji Meister, and everything is now starting to seemingly fall apart for these defenders into 2vx. Now a none VX, as that will shut things down for them. Aggro and Ray finish it up, and now Snow Patrol find another round.
You do, and I feel like it was the defense that kind of went wrong in terms of roaming, in terms of trying to pick up things a little bit too late in the round, per se. What I mean by that is they played for the retake rather than anything else. They tried to fall back really early, which wasn't necessarily a bad idea, but when you are trying to play for the retake, you gotta be a little bit more active instead of just all clumping up in one big area trying to buy yourself some time. At that point, it just gives Swole Patrol the ability to move on in, gaining more area, more ground, more confidence, and more kills towards the end of the round. So, really, Shinigami kind of pigeonholed themselves into a specific area, and they dug their own grave. But, I mean, hopefully they'll be able to kind of switch things up this time around, be a little bit more active in the way that they roam, and waste a little bit more time either via utility or just by shooting bullets in the heads of Swole Patrol's players.
Well, they're not going to change things up too much. Phoenix bringing the Goyo here, and they're going to have 3 different shields now to work with. Rooney and Cade being brought still, so not too much difference. Now, you mentioned the difference might be just trying to gain more from that roam game. Excuse me. They did get some drone shot, but it was only like 2, and then they already lost complete control of the south side of the top part of the map. So I don't think that was quite enough, like you had said. I agree. I think they're going to want to get a little bit more for their troubles, and at the very least, if they're not going to get the opening kill, you want to make sure that they can't really execute onto site until at least in minutes remaining, maybe even less.
Looking as to where the attackers are going to be moving, it seems to be entirely from the south side of the map, meaning, you know, AV games, a little bit of a horizontal push, nothing too far out of the ordinary that we normally see. It's usually just Yana going in with her clone and or droning on in the entry fraggers trying to move on in, but the main difference of this one is that there are a lot more utility helping out the defenders, and there are a lot more defenders actually present for this strategy. They're trying to hold down, hunker down, should I say, in bar and AV, which is not a bad idea, but you really have to know when to fall back, and you have to know when to take the gunfights. Right then and there, that's a prime example of it. It seemed to be that Catboy got a little bit too aggressive, and aggro honestly just took advantage of it. I mean, Catboy was getting droned out already, and there wasn't too much of a chance for that player, but regardless, I mean, still a great try at that one. You see aggro picking up a double kill, finding the engagement on that one, and officially clearing out the AV and bar side of things.
Well, at least Twist got a kill back onto Raze. It's not all lost here on the side of Shinigami's defense, but certainly not where you want to find yourself in a 3v4. Oh, about half the round remaining, so that's not that much time killed either. Still plenty of time for these attackers to get the execute down, and you've already lost your top fraggers for the most part on your side of things, so you're gonna have to hope someone else can step up here. Aggro, though, stepping up for his side. He has 2 kills in the round so far. He's gonna try and find another one. They're gonna be looking at the statue doorway here. It looks like that's where they want to try and get the execute down as soon as they have the right amount of information so that they can start pushing in, getting the plant down. But time is starting to tick down. Only a minute remaining. They still haven't seemingly droned all that much. They don't have all that much information gleaned.
Not necessarily, but they still can make a round out of just straight up moving on in and using their active intel to their advantage, right? I mean, they still have the Yana up on the board, they still have those Lion charges, which could prove extremely useful, and it seems to be that it is. We got Twist, though, will be picking off the player creep, but getting killed all in the same moment. Kenji and TG1 finding respective kills of their own, but it'll be Kenji to find the actual kill of the round, and that'll be a nice headshot. Very well placed one on the player swinging on into blue, the Lion.
a really smart play. He was in Astro, and we saw Hacker, I believe, moving in on the Hibana, but they were just looking at the shield, which is a really good distraction. He's actually on the other little corner of Astro, gets that kill, and then obviously we just saw him clean up the last kill there on to the Dia, I believe, pushing in through Astro window. So just things falling apart a little bit on that attack. As we had mentioned, information wasn't fully gleamed, so they had to just try and do that push in, like you had said, try and bully their way into sight. Unfortunately, though, they were pretty well shut down. The push coming in as well through Statue was shut down by Twist. He had the cross angle for his player, the Aruni, in the master bedroom. So just playing the angles, playing the time perfectly. Shinigami getting around now, putting themselves on match point here. They're up 6-3 in the round department. Plenty of wiggle room too if they can't find the round right away.
We go back to AV games, and if we do remember historically on round 7, it was a pretty tidy round for Shinigami. They won that one out very convincingly. And hopefully they'll be able to do the same exact thing. This time around, though, it's a match point scenario, so backs against the wall for Swole Patrol. They're going to have to do every single thing in their power to claw their way back in this proceeding. It's 3-6 right now, so honestly, no mistakes can be granted and be afforded to them. Otherwise, Shinigami will essentially take advantage of that and use that to propel their way to a round win. And of course, we know what any round win for Shinigami means. Shinigami? We know, of course, that means it is a game loss for Swole Patrol.
Yeah, Shinimuni, gimme,
Shinimagami,
I don't know, it's like sound like a rap god over there.
Shinimagami, it makes me
English
sad.
is hard.
English is hard.
Well, they're going to be locking down the side. They bring the Aruni again. Seems to be something that they've liked the change in bringing her. I think they just like the utility burn that accompanies that gadgetry, and also the fact that it can be reactivated. So it's almost like an unlimited gadget, similar to Yanda's drone, honestly. So they kind of counter each other perfectly in that regard. The drone work is and the push coming in through the north side of the map. That's pretty standard, as I had mentioned. A lot of people have started to do that now. Just get control of top of red, get control of 90. Then you can start trying to get and execute whichever bomb set you really like. Ray, though, not going to be getting the drone work for him. TG1 just waiting there in open arms, and that's an easy kill. Tries to flick to aggro, but he does get that kill and shuts him down, but took a lot of damage in the meantime. Phoenix is going to move up, try and get control of 90, not letting these attackers get as much control as quickly as they would like.
He said, put me in a home, Ray. Put me in a home. Man, is he saying he's old? Is he saying his reaction time is bad?
Boomer brain.
I'm sorry. Boomer brain. Boomer brain, man. Well, regardless, we got Phoenix down, we got TJ1 down. TJ1? Yeah, TG1 down. Ray down just as well. So it's a 4v3 scenario, of course, in terms of bodies. We got the favor going towards Swole Patrol. Shinigami not necessarily in the driver's seat this time around. They're more towards like a passenger or maybe like a back seat, but like in the middle seat, so they're close to the driver's seat. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? You know what I mean? You totally know.
Who gets control of the radio? That's what's really important. Right?
Yeah, that is really important. Who does get control? Who gets aux?
Aggro, triple kill on the round on Akechi now, so that's going to make them even more favored. Twist trying to bring it back. Hacker did get a kill onto his teammate, so he is in a 1vx situation. 1v3 now, was 1v4. He's going to try and push in, does get that kill into Aggro, who was damaged a lot earlier, so that's probably the easiest kill he's going to find. Now a 1v2 plan is going down. He can't stop it from his position, and now he's just going to have to try and find these frags in a very short amount of time. The flash coming out, the line scan coming out. He's just being harassed from every angle. He's going to try and push out and get this kill, but he can't. Hacker getting that kill, and now Swole Patrol finding another round. Now it's going to be 6-4, and they're going to be trying to make this comeback happen, but still a couple more rounds need to be found.
It was a very close round towards the end. And because of the aggressive take from Swole Patrol, it definitely seemed to be a little bit more favored in their hands, for sure. I mean, they definitely made a good read of the play, and they were able to do things in a timely fashion. That's something that you, of course, love to see from competitive teams, regardless of the scenario that they're put in, so you gotta give it to them in that regard. But Swole Patrol, I mean, they lined up those crossfires so well towards the end that even Twist, I believe, who was the remaining player left on the board, couldn't do anything about it. It just simply was a lost round by that time.
Locate and defuse as many
And, I mean, hey, it's a 1 round for Swole Patrol, giving them only a 2-round deficit from Shinigami. So, hey, I mean, if they are able to claw their way up from the depths of a potential loss, this would be crazy. This would be monumental. Generational, baby. Generational.
Right? Find all these buzzwords. What can we find and
I know.
exaggerate the situation? No, it wouldn't really be that much of an exaggeration, though, because coming back from a 6-3 is pretty difficult, let's be honest.
It is.
Any more than 2 rounds is always difficult. I think if you're down 2 rounds, it's doable, but you need 3 in a row. That's a lot. And especially on attack on Villa, usually attack is a lot harder to come back from, right? You're always playing into the defense. We've talked about that a few times. But so far, this has been a little bit more attacker-sided of a map. So gotta keep that in mind as well. They're gonna be going for that kitchen dining basement hold, I guess, first floor, technically, hold. I do think that this is a strong bomb site. And we saw that trophy, I mentioned before, there's only been 1 win out of 4 attempts. So it makes sense not to go there. It hasn't been the strongest bomb site for either team. So to try and see this site, see how they can do on it, it makes sense to me. I don't think Shinigami has tried this site either.
Well, if we looked in the... No, they have not. They have not tried this site whatsoever. So this is a little bit of a new occurrence for them. I mean, it could truly go either way. We see Swole Patrol. They look to be hot on the heels of the players of Shinigami. I mean, at this point, if any player from Shinigami stays up on top floor, it's really a free-for-all for them. It's mechanical skill versus mechanical skill, and we know how that has gone in the past. I mean, we look at the kill feeds, and we see that Swole Patrol hasn't had the best time going up against the players of Shinigami, but regardless, we still have to give them the benefit of the doubt, especially because they have ARs versus them SMGs that aren't necessarily powerful at the ranges we're looking at currently. But of course, we see the Lion Charge is going to be coming in very hot aggro, getting some damage dealt, but Catboy taking the opportunity, we'll say, to move on down those red stairs, trying to rotate back on out. And that is the whole idea of being a roamer, right? Just shoot and leave. Shoot and leave, baby.
Well, it's getting pushed from every different angle here, and
my
on
word,
TK
it's
coming
a
out is
TK.
not going to help them at all on the side of Swole Patrol. Ray does find a kill to try and make up for that. Hacker finding one onto TG1 as well, so they brought it back to an even man count despite the TK coming out, but they still only have a minute remaining, so not going to favor them, I would argue, still here. The Lion skin coming out, they've already used both of those, so no more of those available. Looking at the drone economy as well, they only have 2 active drones available to 2 of the attackers, 1 in each pocket of Hacker and Ray. That's all the information that they can possibly gain in these last 40 seconds, so it's not where you want to find yourself as the attackers. A lot of soft destruction hasn't even been done yet either. They have to rely on some of these soft breaches, and that's all they can really do right now. So things are falling apart on their side when it comes to the information and the lines of sight. So they're just going to have to go for a quick push, I feel, and that's just not probably going to work out. 20 seconds remaining here. Ray just holding angles from above, trying to find a kill. Hacker does push in and get that kill on the Kenji, but he's instantly refragged by Catboy, and now 2v2, 15 seconds remaining. This is what I was talking about, into the meat grinder, and they fall apart, crushed and dominated. Catboy Phoenix cleaning up. Shinigami winning dominant fashion, 7-4.
Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful proceeding. It was the exact definition of a 20-second meta. You said 20 seconds remaining on the clock, and I just knew. I knew.
Right?
It was a 20-second
We know how this ends.
It was exactly the 20-second meta. They were beginning to collapse upon the site, but they didn't have enough intel, and that is what kills you every single time, even if you have the mechanical skill to your advantage, even if you have all of the crossfires laid out. It still is so hard to make a rush into the objective that is fortified so heavily by those beautiful crossfires.
Well, welcome back. I'm John in the desk again. As like you said, we did just see Shinigami really start to stall them out, really start to slow them down and give themselves an advantage in the last 30 seconds, but a lot closer scoreline than Shinigami's first game, which was a 7-2. So Wes, I want you, as, the Villa guru, so to speak, on this map, in this desk, I want you to talk about maybe what were the big changes. I feel like on the attack, we saw a big resurgence from Swole Patrol, didn't we?
Yeah, they were able to do better, I would say, on their attack for sure, certain. Now, you did get 2 rounds on each side, but it looked a little bit more clean, right? The teamwork was a little bit more there, right? We saw refrags coming out a lot more often on their attack, and it's because they played together a little bit better. I think we saw a lot of solo plays on the defense, and so they were picked apart one at a time. On the attack, that wasn't necessarily the case. It was more hero plays coming out on the side of Shinigami. I believe that we saw a couple players get, multi-kills, like triple kills, quad kills, so it's kind of hard to overcome that, but certainly their efforts looked clean on the attack.
I feel like that's a nice way to look at it. Jenna, then moving forward to you, I think I want to say, well, when you look towards Swole Patrol, there's gotta be a good amount of droning. You gotta have a plan to deal with these roamers, because Shinigami had a lot of control in a lot of those rounds towards the last 20 seconds. I feel like they played it very well.
They did. I feel like Shinigami really knew how to control their mental, control their emotions, and they kept it really calm and steady towards the end. I mean, I feel like there was also a few times, though, where Swole Patrol, especially on their defense rounds, where they kept it calm and steady, too, and they were able to clutch out some really nice rounds. But regardless, I mean, I feel like you touched on it a little bit towards the end of the last round, Wes. You were saying about how the drone economy wasn't looking all too great for Swole Patrol. They were beginning to kind of fall back and lag back in terms of intel, and I feel like that's kind of the trend of their entire attacking round. I mean, especially towards the end, they were trying their best to move on into the objective, but they kept on getting thwarted by intel or utility or even bullets. I'm getting riddled with bullets. I mean, everything was playing against them because they didn't have the correct intel, or there was something just keeping them up in every single situation, and they really just got the short end of the stick.
I feel like that's a right way to approach it. But yes, Shinigami, they will be able to win that round, and they will be moving forward to be facing, let me just very quickly triple check, Niagara Falls Esports, the winner of the Niagara Falls Esports or Canadian Musketeers game. Whoever then goes on and wins that, they will have secured that spot through the winner bracket. Unfortunately, Swole Patrol, you're going to be joining the likes of Ember Rise Esports, Tide Pods, all the way down in the lower bracket with a run to try and bring it back. The next game will be our last game, as, well, the production can't go on forever. Unfortunately, I feel like we're having a wonderful time, but just before that, we are going to be taking a short 10-minute break. So don't go anywhere. But if you do, maybe check us out on Twitter. Maybe check out some of the players that you've seen today. Try to get involved, because you might as well. The Discord link will also be posted. But we will be right back. Hello and welcome back for our third and final game of the second qualifiers for the Canadian Contenders League. Gotta get it right, it has to absolutely happen. Yet again, joining me are Jenna and Wes. Welcome, great to have you back, thank you very much. Now, the game that we're going to be watching is going to be Shinigami going up against the Canadian Musketeers, and these names may be familiar, because they are. We've already seen them. So, Jenna, looking towards the side of Canadian Musketeers, we saw them on Chalet with a 7-5 victory. What do you think we can expect moving forward now that you've actually seen the team?
Well, they did pretty good in Chalet. I'm not gonna lie. They did have a pretty good showing, especially towards the end, but I feel like they were a little bit weaker at the beginning. Tide Pods was beginning to kind of gain that momentum, but the side swap really helped them out, especially on their defenses. So I'd have to say, you know, give it up to them on their defenses. Their attacks might be a little bit more weaker, I'm gonna say, and as their defenses will be a little bit more hardened, but the one thing that I am going to have to look at here would be the fact that they might be a little bit worn out, right? I mean, they've already gone through one match today, potentially two, I'm not even quite sure. Plus, you know, all the matches that they've had to do beforehand, maybe with different teams, you know, such and such, da-da-da. So, I mean, it's been a pretty packed day for them. So, their stamina, it might not be at the highest, and going up against a completely new enemy that, of course, has also just gotten out of a game fresh too, that could be a little bit of a challenge for each of these teams specifically.
Wes, I'm going to throw it to you for the other side. Obviously, we've just seen Shinigami play. They just knocked the Swell Patrol down to the lower brackets. So, based on what we've already seen, let's catch people up in case they missed it. Let's talk about what we expect to see from that side.
Well, we saw that their whole team is capable of fragging, but we had some highlight players, I would argue, that we should watch out for, see if they're still going to be just as hot. Phoenix being one, especially on the entry, right? He just kind of walks in and does what he wants, so it's something to watch out. Will they allow that to continue here, or can they shut him down? And then another player would be Catboy. He certainly had more of an impact on defense. He's their primary Jaeger, so it's something to watch out for. And then Kenji had some good clutch moments, so we'll see if he's able to do that as well. The one thing I would watch out for on a negative of their team, and especially saw this on Phoenix, and on defense specifically, I saw this happen a couple times. He gets a little overly aggressive, but their whole team does. So they'll peek like long angles with like a smoke with SMG-11. So just they got to be careful about not giving kills easily like that by peeking things that are not to their advantage.
And based on what you both said, to be honest, something I feel I really want to see for the side of Canadian Musketeers is drone usage, is flank cameras, maybe bring a Nomad, maybe bring a Jackal. Like you said, Shinigami, they have a very aggressive playstyle. Maybe you can shut that down by picking a map that can punish that. When you think about maybe a Kaf Dostoyevsky, bring a Nomad for your vertical plays, or even better, when you look towards even a goddamn the coastline. You can shut that down very easily if you allow a Nomad through the board, but we do have the rosters, and right, Jenna, you get to pick one specific player that you need to watch out for, and Wes, you'll do the same. But as we bring these lineups, see what players are going to be brought through, I want to hear, who are you looking for?
Who am I looking for?
Yeah.
Well, if we look back at the roster of Canadian Musketeers, when we look back at all of those 5 players, you see Taro, Simon, Awiet, Dro. I'm going to say Simon. I saw him playing the Ashe quite a few times on Chalet, and he was pretty strong. I'm not going to lie. I mean, he followed that drone as most Ashe main, Shell, and he played with his team still, and he was still able to frag out and still able to do some damage to the other team while maintaining his life and being able to be at least of some use in terms of utility, not just that fragging ability. So I'm going to have to go with him.
Okay. And Wes, on the side of... It can be either roster, by the way. I do want to point that out. What player do you want to look out for?
Well, if we look at the rosters pulled up right now, Shinigami actually has the wrong names, which is fine. So I'll just talk about one player I already mentioned, Phoenix, right? So he's that opening engagement, right? He's always going to be the one trying to get the opening kill, especially on attack. I know that Catboy will sometimes do that in defense, but Phoenix, always the one on the entry of attack, and that's the side I usually focus on, right? Because I think the best teams are the ones that can show that they have really strong attacks and usually win that opening engagement.
Okay. Now, looking towards the map side of things, Jenna, we've seen Chalet and we've seen Villa. Do you feel like we're going to see teams want to go towards this, or are they going to want to try and use that wider range of their map pool? Because think about it, this is a streamed qualifier event.
I hope so. God, I hope so. I hope we see something new. I hope we see maybe Oregon, and I know Oregon. I hope we see just something new. Potentially Clubhouse, even anything outside of Chalet or Villa. Because if each one of these teams either plays Chalet or Villa, it could spell absolute destruction for the other one, because they've already played on it today. They already know what they're doing. They've already made the little tweaks in their strategy against one team, and they kind of are a little bit battle hardened on that specific map. So going up against another team, it should be easy peasy, right? That's what you'd at least think, but I still think, there could be some value in going a map that we've already seen. You can go up against new strategies, or you could just keep on practicing it. Because like you said, even though it is a qualifiers, it's still going to be that, winner and losers bracket type of situation. So you do get a double redemption type of scenario that you can find yourself in. So, of course, there's always that.
Okay. Personally, I'm going to say, well, I'm going to appeal to the play-by-player myself, and the fact that what we saw from Shinigami with an aggressive playstyle, I want to see a coastline. But we're going to find out exactly where we're heading to. Let's bring those map bands up onto the screen, and Wes, why don't you run us through it?
All right, well, first one banned out is Chalet, and then we see Coastline, Oregon, Consulate, Villa, Cafe, and we're left with Clubhouse, of course.
Oh, baby. I'm not off track here. I'm so on track. I said Clubhouse too.
Right, okay. Jenna, I need to call you out at this point. Every time we've gone through the map bands,
listen,
you've listed
there are
half...
seven maps.
No?
There are 7 maps. I could have chosen, if I choose 3, that's fine, because at least one of them's right. I could have chosen Cafe. I could have said Consulate. No, but I said Clubhouse or Oregon.
Okay, yes, but when you call out half the map pool, it's a lot easier than one specific map. But
It's
Clubhouse...
not half the map.
Okay, you chose it, Clubhouse. Why is this a map that you think is going to be very impactful for these two teams?
Well, it's because it's going to put them in a type of situation where the meta is very known. So they're going to have to use outside tactics and outside factors to really get at each other's and under each other's skin, should I say. They're going to have to, an example, in Shinigami's position, they're going to have to use their ability to frag out and play aggressive, whereas, Canadian Musketeers, they might have to use their ability on their defenses to gain more rounds than not. It just really depends on how these teams are going to be using their advantages to their advantage, or, their specific positive factors, I want to say, to their advantage. You guys know what I mean. And I think that specifically on Clubhouse, it could really go back and forth.
Okay, I feel like it's one of those maps that's a very good test of whether a team has what it takes to succeed on an T3, T4 kind of example stage. That's the word I'm going to use. Because it's one of those maps where, in my opinion, Wes, it's not necessarily who has the better strats, it's who executes them better. Because, realistically, if you stray too far from the more beaten path, well, 9 times out of 10, that's probably a strat that's been tried that's just not worked out.
Right. I mean, this is the map that everyone has a strat for, right? Everyone has a strat, and they're almost all the same strat. There's some leeway in, like, how do you want to execute? Let's take basement, for example. Okay, so you can get kitchen hatch and push through dirt and maybe do the drop that way. Or you get blue control and you try and push in through the church doorway. So not a lot of variability there, right? It's really just 2 different ways that people approach it. No one's really tried other ways of doing it because, as you mentioned, tried and true. Yes, you could try and switch it up, bring something new, but this is a map that's been around for a while now. So if you try something new, it's probably already been done, and it's probably not going to be successful. Now, there's always that little bit of chaos that can happen to allow you to have success. We saw the rush strat in Villa coming through from Shinigami. So maybe something like that could be used once, but you can't really rely on that.
No, you really can't. But There's one thing you can rely on, and that's the fact that the Desk Host does not go in with the casters, so I'm going to bid you guys adieu, wish you a best game possible, because the winner of this game, I need to remind you, will qualify for the Canadian Contenders League. Joins the likes of Valus and the Wrecking Crew in those locked-in positions. I will be right back after the game, but Giraffe, why don't you lead us through?
Well, yeah, I'm excited to get on in to Shinigami and Canadian Musketeers. It's going to be a really exciting match because it's like what we've seen displayed through these two teams, and it's going to be all mashed up together. It's like different profiles of skill and elements that are going to be put all in one game and on a map that we love to see, that is in the normal meta, that has been played through a million different times. So it's really going to be put up to how well those factors are going to work out to one another, because chances are they're going to be playing the same exact meta, just with slightly different variations in terms of mechanical skill and maybe positioning, stuff like that. So I think those outside factors are really going to start shining through as the rounds go on.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm curious to see, like who will have a more successful roam game, for example, right? Because if you don't have a roam game, it's going to be kind of weird. You're going to give a lot of map control, and then, they can have all the angles that they want. So it's almost necessary. So that's something to watch out for, right? Which team, again, McCready said it perfectly. Who can execute the strats better? That's really what it's going to be about. It's not necessarily who's bringing the better strat, because, again, like you said, been played out. We already know how this map works. We know how people attack it. We know how people defend it. Now, something to keep in mind, we haven't looked at these bans yet. I expect them to be pretty standard. Thatcher being banned, Mira probably being banned, maybe not, Valkyrie. So some of these mainstays in the ban lineup. But there might be some extra, juicy bits here. Maybe Maverick ban or a Hard Breach ban.
Wow. Okay, well, the first ban off the board is going to be Habana. Nothing too out of the ordinary, maybe other than the actual sequence of the bans. We normally see a Thatcher being the first ban off the board, which this one, of course, is going to be Thatcher, without a doubt, but, a little bit of a switch up there, I guess we could say. So Habana and Thatcher are our first two players off the board. Again, of course, it's normal meta for Clubhouse. It's really a very monotonous ban section, I would have to say. Out of all the maps that you can choose to have banned operators, it's just really what's going to be in the rounds and what they contain that we're going to see those exciting, tiny little moments occur.
Well, Melissa off the board. She's pretty strong on this map. I'll give them that. She has good choke points, right? Moving up the stairs, like red stairs, for example. You're just going to have to get blasted if you try that. You want to take care of that right off the bat. So it's utility dump in a sense. Now the last ban here, I think it'll probably be the Val. If it's not, I expect her to be played a bunch, but there it is. And so as you mentioned, this is pretty standard of a lineup. The only thing that's a little odd is the Melissa, but it's an understandable ban. So curious to see, will Mira be brought now that she's been allowed to go through?
Even more curious to see, will Kaid be brought now that he's gonna go on through, because Kaid is a powerhouse when it comes to hatches. He's a powerhouse when it comes to all walls. He's a powerhouse when it comes to any reinforced apparatus that the attackers can muster their way through. So you really have to wonder, is he going to be used for every site? Is he going to be used to target specific things? It very well may come down to sites, as we see that Kaid isn't going to be played out this time around. Instead, the castle. I saw that pick just at the last moment, and I was really sad. I was so sad. He's not getting played. My boy with the AUG. I love him.
Attackers need to locate.
Well, maybe he'll be adjusted to, right? They might switch to him if this doesn't work out, right? But I think what we're seeing here is an SSG strat, right? We see
for sure
the bossy mute combo with the castle, like you had mentioned. So that's just kind of what you would expect. That's what that lineup screams, right? Now, will they actually do it, or will there be a variation in the way that they do execute this? I don't know for sure. But either way, buying time above, very standard for this bomb site of basements here on Clubhouse. And Castle is just going to be trying to earn them a little more time. They can't open up all the angles that they may want. And I think the other thing to keep in mind is there's no sledge being brought, so you have to also waste utility on those castle barricades. So a lot of utility going to be needed to clear out above. if these defenders play it right, they could just burn enough time that these attackers are just going to have to, funnel their way into the site with very little time.
Right, I mean, it very well could be an unfortunate event for them, or, get this, they could... Yeah, watch G. They could very well just funnel their way into the site and do a rush strategy. That's normally the way that you counteract an SSG roam. You just take your time and try to move on into those little tiny holes in the defense as much as possible, or you could go in really hot and heavy and just move on into the objective with speed. But whatever the attack do, it needs to be well coordinated.
Oh, you mentioned pushing in quickly. They're already in dirt. No, he's by himself, the ace of Elliot. So I wouldn't advise to move in, but he's hopefully going to get some information to his teammates to let him know, hey, this is what I'm seeing. We can start maybe trying to get an execute down. He's going to already try and engage with Kenji, but nothing really being found there. And the rest of his team, as we had seen, are not pushing with them. They're actually getting control of Garage right off the bat. TG1 taking some damage, but gets the kill on Taro. So the opening kill going to come through for the defense. And that's the Maverick off the board as well. It's going to limit these hard breach options.
A bomb has been
Just gonna limit the hard breach options, but still got the ace up on the board, even though he is sitting in dirt, so kind of opens up a little bit of a variation depending on what you want to do, but oh my word, it's gonna be 2 kills potentially for this IQ, moving on into blue, gaining the control of just such. It's gonna force those defenders to make the necessary rotations to funnel in and hopefully shut down that IQ, moving on into the objective. But regardless, we got Elliot, he'll be picking up Catboy officially, and TG1 is still down but not out, and you got Phoenix. He's going to try to use the Boss G to his advantage, but finally we got TG1 going down as Phoenix finds the kill with the Boss G, but oh my word, going on through the wall, it's going to be a very well-placed headshot for that F2 player of Elix. Elixirs?
I'm just going to say Alex, because it's A-L like Al, and then X.
Yeah,
Alex.
it's Alex. It's got to be. Otherwise,
it has to be, right?
Why?
Otherwise, I have no idea what they would say.
Right.
Right.
Elix. ERS? Elopers? Oh god. I have no clue.
Maybe it's AI, you never know. People are really weird. Either way, it gets the kill, cleans up the round. I'm wondering if there's a bit of trolling going on. Like, you do not see the Boss G being brought very often. Like, I saw him doing the vertical holes, sure, but he had impacts he could have used for that too. So just kind of weird. I'm just not going to really expand on that any further. We're just going to let it be. He's not bringing it this time. They're going to switch it up. They're going to go up to CC and Cash. Another standard site here. The only site you will not see on this map is going to be that bar, stock, games, billiards, whatever it's called. No one goes there, so no one needs to worry about it. They're going to see the 3 main bomb sites. This is number 2 pretty often, as gym and bedroom are typically that 3rd site.
Correct, you are. And usually there isn't going to be a unnecessary there is normally going to be a break before the defenders actually win out all their sites in a triad. So, in this case, there actually was, because Musketeers did win out bottom floor. So, Shinigami still has the ability to go all 3 potential primary sites if they do so choose. And it seems to be that CCTV was their next one.
Well, the hold is pretty standard. Yeah? They bring in the Cade and the Mute. You actually see that combination pretty often. This Mute's going to deny the drone work and maybe give an extra set of denial if you really needed it. While those Cade claws obviously going to be focused on the main wall. Simon going to get down right off the bat. Not quite sure what the angle was onto him, but he's not getting finished off yet. And from below, we see Alex holding an angle into the cash room. Now, they were down in stock, so some vertical play coming out, but no kill netted for the defense, unfortunately. Would have been a nice opening kill for them, but at least some damage done.
Right, I mean, you always love to have damage done, especially on one of the main fraggers for the attacking side, and a person that could potentially have a everlasting effect on what Shinigami's defense would be. But we got TG1, he'll be taking off the player of Taro. Unfortunate as it is, that's your Mab going down once again. That's absolutely huge, and a C4 still outside the window? Question mark? What?
I
Sure.
don't know,
What
but
happened
Alex
there?
is going to get TG1 and Uber is going to get a kill onto Kenji. Alex finding a second one on to Twist, and now a 2v4, so they got to open and kill yet again and then start falling apart. Elliot going to get killed by Catboy, so that's the Jaeger doing some work here. Uber pushing up red stairs here, and unfortunately these defenders do not seem to be aware of all the positions, but as I say, that Catboy does get Simon Uber, going to get the refrag, and now a 1v2, a non-v2. Uber cleans them up as well. I think a triple kill on the round, and well, Musketeers are looking strong here at these first 2 rounds.
They are, and I feel like it is more so on Shinigami than anything else, because we know that Clubhouse is an extremely defense-sided map. Musketeers should not have lost this many rounds, even in a row, right? I mean, an 0-2 doesn't look very convincing. And right, we are on round 3, so anything could happen at this point, but Shinigami really needs to get their stuff together, because if they lose another round, that's a potential 3-3 scoreline by the time they hit their attacking rounds, which is most definitely not favored when you're talking about Clubhouse, an extremely defense-sided map itself. But hey, I mean, there are always ways to claw your way back from the defeat that you have endured over the first 2 rounds. And it just seems like Shinigami truly needs to play a little bit more passive, but also maintaining a good bit of positioning and knowing when to make those rotations rather than just kind of seeming like a cluttered mess and playing a little bit out of their range, in a sense.
Yeah, they're big caught out, as you mentioned. They're outside of their own range, and a lot of the times we'll see a lot of kills come in succession for the Canadian Musketeers. They're getting a lot of kills in a row, all at once, right? So it shows that they have the information, and then they all are pushing kind of at the same time to get those kills, try and give themselves more than just a one-man advantage. Let's get a few of these kills, try and steamroll them in a way, and it's been working for them. On the side of Shinigami, as you mentioned, they're just not getting the information they need. They're maybe holding angles or positions for too long. I'm not quite sure exactly what the method to the madness is, but they have to change something, because clearly it just has not been successful so far.
I mean, there is one way to describe it, my dear friend Wes, and that would be momentum. It's momentum. That is all it is. They've been able to foster it pretty well during these rounds, but another thing that seems to be fostered is the positioning for that defender. Simon, though, shutting that one down, moving on into the garage. I mean, hey, it is a SMG versus an AK? No, it's not an AK. Oh my gosh. It is a AR, should I say, or an assault rifle. So it's not necessarily going to be working out in your favor regardless.
Right, I mean, that's why if you're going to use the Roni over the Commando, you have to get the headshot. You don't get the headshot, you're just using a pea shooter, just like no damage. So that's unfortunately the kind of situation we just saw there. But opening kill coming for Canadian Musketeers this time. And I think they actually had lost the opening kills, but they still won both rounds anyway. So it's not like it's been a huge factor for them. And now it's just an extra advantage early in the round. Man behind generator going to be peeking a little bit too much, going to get found out. Alex is just going to drop right in, try and get this kill. And unfortunately wasn't punished for it, and he's not going to find a kill either, but that's control now of blue.
It is control of blue, and that is a huge milestone at about 1 minute and 30 left on the clock for Musketeers. I mean, they still have all players left up on the board, and they have a good line of sight into the objective. A lot of players, though, being damaged on over, on this Musketeer, should I say. I was gonna say Shinigami, but oh my word. 2 players going down all at once. Ace and Zoe, 2 pretty huge players that we saw during the game of Chalet. But regardless, we got a little bit of a clapback going on. Uber picking off 1. That's with the Commando moving on in for a 3-on-3 scenario. Still seems to be, though, that Musketeers have a way in the driver's seat. I mean, they... not anymore, I guess. Oh my gosh. Caster's Curse. Love that for you. But regardless, it's going to be a player going on down for the attack. Unfortunately, Uber bite the bullet. ALX and Taro are the remaining players left up on the board. They still do happen to be in the objective. You got one player planning and the other one holding a crossfire angle, but it's going to be cut up from Phoenix, coming in with the SMG 12, picking off 1 and then another in a moment's notice.
And yeah, not the easiest weapon to use either. The SMG-12, you know, it's kind of like a spitting machine, just kind of goes all over the place. And he's able to land the headshot on that prone player. So good job from him cleaning up the round for his team. But, you know, it really came down to the angles being held by Twist and Catboy. They got those 2 kills when they really needed it into blue, I believe, which honestly allowed them to survive until that point. And then you knew the plant had to go down pretty quickly. They didn't have all that much time to play with. And then Phoenix just 200 IQ play, knows when to push up, knows the angles that could be held, gets the planter, and then finishes the deal on the last player in blue. So great job coming out from Shinigami. They find 1 round, but they need to find a few more here. This is on defensive club. They want at least that split, right? The 3-3 even split before they switch sides. If you're not in that situation, it's almost guaranteed to be looked at as a failure of defense.
I mean, even a 3-3 split could very well be looked at as a guarantee of a loss, because you know you want to be 4-2. That is the goal, at the very least, and Shinigami has already expended those 2 rounds that they could possibly lose during their defenses. So now it's time to get serious. It's time to man up, or woman up, or them up, and go ahead and just win out these rounds.
Well, back up to CC. This didn't go very well for them. They got it to a 1v2 at one point, but unfortunately, it was the player, I believe, Twist on that Lamai was the last one alive in garage, so not really the best spot to be in a 1v2. You're not on site. They have site control. You have to push them at that point in a 1v2. Obviously, one player gets the point down, the other one covers. That's just disaster for you. You have to have a better situation for your teammate there. You cannot lose your anchors in sight that early, as we had seen last time. So hopefully they can clean that up. They can't let them just push up red so easily either. Someone should be playing up there and just holding it down. They're just a little bit too loose with their positions on defense. I think they've been just punished for it continuously. So hopefully they can clean that up.
Looks to be cleaned up. Potentially be Kenji in these coming minutes. He's going to be sitting on bottom garage, also aided by another player sitting top garage. But he's getting pretty aggressive at the current moment. And we know what happens to Shinigami players when they get all too aggressive. They get not necessarily rewarded for it. They get defeated because of it. They get called out, or they get killed, simply put. Simon, he'll be moving on in, though, through the closet, or should I say secret stairs, trying to take out the utility from below. Good idea on him, just moving on out right there and then. Kenji, though, he'll be picking up a kill onto Uber, out of all things. A pretty good fragger for the side of CND Musketeers, but that wall still getting opened on up in those final moments. And Twist finding one of their own.
I was worried. Twist wasn't shooting them right away. Their teammate almost died because they just pushed into the garage, and he just didn't stand up and get that pick pretty easy. He eventually did, but unfortunately, now Kenji's on very low HP. Almost got killed. Luckily, he's still alive, so that's still a gun in hand. Now it's a 5v3 for these defenders. It's already looking a lot better than the last time they went to this bomb site. And now only a minute remaining as well. That's going to play only further into their advantage. Elliott, though, a nice shot through the grid and gets the kill on to Kenji. And now, man advantage not so dire, only down by 1 man. But again, time ticking away. Looking at their drone economy, they only have 2 drones in the pocket of 2 of these alive players. And now, with Simon dead, that's 1 less. Phoenix getting a double there. Darrow off the board. And now Elliott, he had a nice shot through the grid. He needs to find 4 more and get an ace if they want to win it. Not happening. Phoenix, triple kill on the round, and Shinigami tie it back up in the round department.
It is tied back up in the round department. Caster's Curse. Man, Caster's Curse. They gave them those 2 rounds. They had to have given them those 2 rounds. They tightened up right after those first 2 rounds, and Shinigami finding themselves in a very convincing 2-round momentum. It's very good for them, and now they seem to be going on to their 3rd round in succession, which is going to be Gym Bedroom to finalize their little trio of rounds. And then afterwards, it's going to be the 6th round, and at a site of their choosing, which I believe actually would have to be, if I'm correct, church.
Right, yeah, it'd have to be the basement. Unless they lose this, then they can try it again. But yeah, I think most people would argue basement's a better site than gym and bedroom.
Yeah,
so
I
imagine
would
they would
definitely
go there.
have to say that.
looking at it, though, they're going to bring in that Mira, and this is the bomb site that Mira would normally be brought. Now, sometimes you will see her brought in that basement hold as well, depending on the team. Clearly, they haven't favored that lineup. That's not the strat that they like to run, which is completely fine, right? That shows that there is some variability in the ways that people hold things, but again, not a lot of new ways to hold things. So the attackers will probably be expecting this. The other thing to keep in mind is the increased pick rate of Frost. She's going to be brought here as well, and you have to be very careful when they're pushing in. If they don't have the information, and that's something we've criticized both teams on at certain points in time, the drone economy, they have to be very, very careful of those Frost mats, or Pog mats, as some call them.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I've seen the damage that Frost mats can do on Chalet, specifically, with, I believe it was Musketeers, if I'm correct. It was bad. It was horrible. It was not a good time. So I have to imagine that Musketeers is going to be watching out for those Frost mats, and they're going to know that something is a little bit fishy by the time they start droning things on in. But, again, you know, there's always that little tiny chance that they very well might not, and the Frost Trap could be used to an advantage of the defenders. But still, you know, you gotta give it the benefit of the doubt, though. We got Kenji, he'll be on the bottom floor, speaking of Frost, trying to kind of slither his way around and move around the bottom floor with a purpose, looking to find rotates on up into secret stairs, and then potentially over to garage, given that the attackers begin to come around Ash and CC all of that.
Scanning for devices and traps.
Let's do the IQ above on the roof, trying to get the hatch of logistics and just getting harassed. Looks like they took some damage, so they know that they're going to be trying to get the hatch, just trying to pre-fire them through the soft hatch. I just said hatch like 3 times, my bad. But in any case, Phoenix is the one playing in that position. It can be dangerous. They do have grenades in the hand of Maverick, so if he just threw one at the right angle, could easily get a kill here. So that's always the danger of playing in this position. Unless, of course, his buddy Jaeger had given him an ADS.
Well, it doesn't necessarily look like Jaeger might have given his pal an ADS. I mean, you got 2 already sitting by that shield, so it only leaves a little bit of curiosity as to where the last one will be. But you got Catboy, he'll be picking up 1. That's Tarofish going off the board for you. TG, I keep on messing it up. TG is gonna be still down but not out, not necessarily picked up by a teammate quite yet, but it still is going to be a 2-on-4. Simon and Elliot are the remaining players left up on the board. Screw that, it's actually gonna be Simon up on the board. We got Kenji finding the kill up on Elliot, but then Simon finding Kenji themselves. Got a 1-on-4. Lots and lots of players beginning to flood on into construction as Catboy finds the pre-fire and kills the player of Simon.
Nearly a flawless round, so they clearly felt very comfortable on this bomb site. And it's interesting to see it. That was the most decisive one I think they've had on defense, and yet that's the site that most people shy away from. So just curious how things play out like that, but they can't go there again even if they want to. Now they have to go, as we had mentioned, the full rotation has been completed. They have to go basement. As I mentioned before, no one's going to go to the bar site. So this is all you're left with as an option. And we've seen mixed results for Shinigami. They've lost it once, they've won it once. Let's see which way it's going to lean in this round here before the split.
Well, I feel like the first round definitely was, well, the first and the second round, I'm going to have to say, was these teams getting used to each other. They're warming up to each other, they're beginning to find their balance, and it normally takes 2 rounds to find that. And of course, Musketeers, they took advantage of that with their attacks. They were able to get a little bit aggressive, find the frags that they needed to, and understand what exactly was going on with Shinigami. But Shinigami, I mean, they did take those 2 rounds, and they took them not necessarily gracefully, but afterwards, it was smooth sailing for them, right? They finally found their little niche against Musketeers, and they were able to gain those rounds back +1. So, if Shinigami did win out this round, I wouldn't necessarily be surprised, but Musketeers, they still also could have a chance, especially knowing how Shinigami works on this site, and knowing that they could find their way to the objective, you know, using that to their advantage.
It's interesting to see the switch. They had brought the Mozzie mute combo on this defense, I think, both times before. Now, it's going to be a switch away from the Mozzie. Now we're seeing the Echo being brought. I don't think he's been brought yet, so that's definitely going to catch these attackers probably by surprise, I imagine. And the problem with that is that those Echo drones are no longer invisible, so you really have to do your best to hide them in little cheeky corners so that they cannot be shot super easily. That way you can have them come into effect later in the round, as there's no smoke, so that's your only real way to deny the plant, unless of course you use explosives to kill them.
I also like the Jackal play. Definitely, the Jackal play is something to behold, because we said there's a lot of defining roaming going on for Shinigami. I mean, they are very aggressive players, so if they could get shut down or be forced to be a little bit more passive by the presence of a Jackal, that could do wonders for Musketeers and how well they move on into the objective, how fluid they're going to be playing in the next coming seconds. So, I mean, hey, if that's what it takes, then that potentially could be what it takes. But speaking of roaming, you got a little bit of roaming going on right now, coming in with the Vigil, looking to find the players sitting in stock, but instead, they're going to move on down to Secret Stairs, trying to find some players from below, doing a little bit of a sound cue as they look to find their way back on into Church. And switching up perspectives here, we're going to see from the other side, it's going to be a few players in stock and looking at a player in dirt. But Vigil is finally being identified by Jackal, and he's going to be sitting pretty on into the objective with his comrades.
They have to pre-place C4, but they haven't really gone for that execute. No one's really gone into kitchen any of the times that they've been doing this attack on this bomb site. So interesting decision there. It's not going to net anything. Elliot going to get killed onto Catboy. The earlier frag onto Twist was from Alex, so they did get that opening kill as well. And he's going to find a second one now onto TG1, and a third one, I believe, yes, onto Kenji. So he's just trying to do a lot of damage here. He's trying to find the last man alive here on the defense. That's Phoenix in the corner, kind of getting compacted in on, and Alex will get the quad kill in a flawless round. Canadian Musketeers gonna get the even split before they get to try their hand at the defense.
Oh my god. How did that Aruni gate not trigger? They're laughing at it too. I don't know how that Aruni gate didn't trigger. That's crazy. That's a little bit of an interesting kill cam though, wouldn't you say so?
Yeah, I mean the prone pistol. I mean, don't see it too often.
Yeah, for sure.
Through an Aruni gate.
Through an Aruni gate. An Aruni gate that should have triggered, but it did not, unfortunately. Regardless, though, it wasn't too much of a chance for the remaining defender to be winning that one out. But an interesting proceeding we got going on here. It's going to be Bandit 6-picking to Cav. We normally don't see Cav, and when we do see Cav, it's a little bit of a throwaway pick, in my sense, because
being defused by attackers.
More often than not, Cav does get killed or does get seeded out and can't really do all too much. And I normally just don't see a lot of good plays with Cav, unless it is a team going up against a team that doesn't use a whole lot of drones. And in this case, I mean, Shinigami, they have been a little bit inconsistent in the past with drones. They are a very aggressive team, so you could say that Cav could be useful in this site. But then again, I mean, it's Cav. It's always going to be a 50-50 chance. It's always going to be that wild card of a player.
Yeah, I was watching GSA, the German league, and G2 plays with it, and they're facing a German team. And I think it was Virtue used the Cav and actually got an interrogation. But, you know, again, you mentioned, like, it's usually just a difference in skill level that you bring it, right? It's more trolling at that point. I don't think there's a difference enough between these two teams in skill. They're obviously neck and neck right now. So to use that as an argument of why it's okay to bring Cav doesn't really make any sense. So in this case, must just be a comfort pick, right? Like, they're just hoping to catch him off guard and get something for their troubles of that surprise. Uber being very aggressive on the secret window here near blue and gonna just retreat back. The shot's not finding it. The Ella mine does work out to slow them down. Phoenix still getting that opening kill on Tara. We had talked about Phoenix last time, getting those opening kills being so impactful. Well, gonna continue on here now that they're on attack in this map against Canadian Musketeers.
Honestly, I would like to highlight that nice pinch going on there. You saw the Zoe go in Oil Pit the same exact time that the Ash moved on into Secret. They planned that together, and they knew exactly what they were doing together. I gotta commend that level of chemistry with one another, but whole different thing. Oh my word, it's gonna be a kill for the Cab, but a refrag for Phoenix as he finds his way out of the shadows and keeps the Cab going on up the stairs. Not the best proceeding to happen, but hey, I mean, it happened, and it still was a very nice kill for Cab, all in all.
Yeah, Catboy Crippy getting kill onto Uber. And then now Phoenix onto Simon. That's a triple kill on the round, and this is kind of looking like what we saw from Shenanigan before. A quad now. Phoenix just starting to catch up, you know, starting to get on fire here now that they're finally allowed to go on the side that they look way more comfortable on, which is attack.
Apparently so. It seems that Shinigami really finds their niche in attacking, and they know how to get aggressive without being too overly aggressive, and they know how to play very well with one another, which is something that you don't normally see all too often in T3, T4 teams. So I really got to give it to them. I mean, that is a hallmark of being able to adapt and being able to know what exactly to do and when. So there you have it.
An interesting adjustment coming out on the side of Canadian Musketeers. Actually going to go to that gym bedroom defense. We normally call it the tertiary site, or the third bomb site, right? And we did see a very strong showing from Shenanigan, or not Shenanigan, excuse me, Shinigami on this bomb site when they're on defense. So curious to see if we can see a replication of that success from Canadian Musketeers. They obviously did not like the way that things had gone, didn't feel like they had the right adjustments, at least not right off the bat here. They want to try something that hasn't been seen yet. So this is certainly a good bomb site to try that out. We're bringing kind of the mainstay, though, for this bomb site. They're going to have the castle, obviously, help lock down some of those angles. A lot of angles can be opened up from the windows and such on this bomb site. So let's shut those down. Let's get the Mira, obviously looking towards the Jacuzzi wall. You have Mozzie for denial, and of course, Bandit being brought. It's either him or Mute usually brought for the denial of the hard breach.
Attackers must locate and defuse a bomb.
Moving on into this round, I mean, you look at Phoenix, man. He's going off. Or they are going off, should I say. Absolutely crazy plays. I mean, you were the one, indeed, my beautiful friend, Wes, that said that Phoenix is the player to look out for. I mean, just absolutely look at that. 11-3. And, I mean, this isn't anything new either, because Phoenix was the main fragger in the original match that we saw with, I want to say Shinigami versus, yes, Swole Patrol over on Villa. So very consistent showing. Yeah.
Well, that's an aggressive drop into logistics, and no one is here. Catboy having free reign if he wants, and they're not even aware of it. Elliot's just gonna walk right into his waiting arms, and an easy frag. TG1 getting a nice grenade kill onto Simon. Now they have a two-man advantage. He'll be trying to push in, but he's not aware of someone to his right. The C4 missing though, and Alex is not even near sight either. And the drone work gonna give his position away. These attackers have free reign of sight. Catboy finding a second kill, and then we see Uber trying to find a kill, but Twist finding his teammate Taro. In the meantime, no kills were found. Now it's a 1v5, and now it's a flawless round. TG1 seals it off, and Shinigami starting to take control, getting into the driver's seat.
Yes, they are. They know exactly who they're going up against, and they know how to play against them. That aggressive play style, understanding that Musketeers was not in their position when they needed to be, and taking advantage of it. I mean, that's the Shinigami way, baby. They knew how to play that one out. I mean, I'm sorry. I'm giving it to them. I have to give it up for this team. They're doing very well right now.
Yeah, there's absolutely no way of denying that. We saw the 3-3 split. They didn't look nearly as comfortable on their defense. Very close rounds. This is looking so much stronger. Shinigami, with Phoenix especially, just able to, you know, spread their wings, let's say, and the fire being spread out as well. And they're able to just dominate and set the tone for the rest of the team. Everyone else now able to start picking it up as well. We see TG1 got a nice frag kill and also got the last kill of the round. We've seen these other players who maybe aren't getting the kills necessarily like the other players, but they're still doing their job, right? Just getting the right lines of sight opened up. We say whoever called for Catboy to just drop logistics, very smart move, right? There was no one there. I don't know if they had droned it previously or if it was really just a risky play that worked out for them. Either way, it did work out, and now they're going to be able to have that 2-round advantage. Haven't lost a round yet on attack. We'll see if this is the round that Canadian Musketeers can finally get a win on their defense here. This is also the site we haven't seen yet. This is CC in cash.
Attacker's objective is to locate a bomb.
Indeed, you are correct. So this is an entirely new set of strategy that we see. And of course, it's nothing out of the normal meta, but it's still going to be a different challenge for Shinigami to have to be faced up against. And it could be a round that Musketeers wins out just because of that. But of course, we're going to have to see how this round plays out. We got Wamai sitting on over in the garage. Nothing too out of the ordinary, placed with those Jaeger ADSs and hopefully some discs alongside their person. We got the Mav, though. It's going to be going in for that tricking. Trying to upside down repel, but getting damaged in the meantime. I mean, Mav tricking is one of those beautiful arts that just is... It's so hard to do sometimes. So hard.
Yeah, it is hard. You have to be very careful, right? Because explosives can certainly take care of you if you're not getting the holes made correctly, and if you're not careful. There's also runouts and peeks from the garage door, so you have to really work with your team while also being cautious yourself when you're doing your job there. And it looks like they're doing the job pretty well. Obviously a little bit of a slow start, but Kenji should be able to get this wall cleaned up, and then they have the buck. We can just, once it's soft, open it up for the rest of the team. We see the Montaigne being brought by Twist, so that's obviously going to help them as well, getting the control that they would like, using his shield to bully Elliot back onto the catwalk and not get the control that they want. But Phoenix able to clean up the kill, and that's what you talk about with teamwork with the Montaigne. That's exactly what you want. But Alex is down below in oil, but a sneaky angle gets Phoenix cleaned up, and that's going to make it a lot easier for their team. The Menace is now taken care of. 4v4 and about a little over a minute remaining.
The Menace, indeed. I like that word. I like the way you described him, because that is the exact word. Like, I couldn't have said it better myself. But regardless, we got TG1 moving on up the red stairs, becoming a menace themselves, getting a double kill headshot. Moving in for these individual plays. Absolutely huge to be showing up like this. The Alder, though, is going to find one of its own. Simon taking on down 2 players, not 1. Should I say. Catboy, unfortunately, going down in the crossfire, but Kenji finds Simon, and it is a 2-on-1. So the damage has been done, and it comes out to still be in the favor of Shinigami. You see Kenji, though, aided by the intel that Monty is going to find a very well-placed headshot on the remaining player of Bandit.
What a nice flick there, honestly. It looked like he wasn't quite expecting him to push him like that, but then is able to just net the headshot there, and what a nice shot it was. If it was a kill coming out for the defender, it would have been a 1v1 against the Montaigne, but there was no real walk through. He would have had to jump through the window, so it wasn't really advantageous for the Montaigne. So I think he's thanking his lucky stars that Kenji did get that kill. And now, 3 rounds in a row on attack, Shinigami all of a sudden are on map and match point, and all the bomb sites are available, but none of them have worked out yet for Canadian Musketeers.
I know. I kind of feel bad for them on their defense. You would expect this being Clubhouse for them to be winning out their defenses a little bit more convincingly, but Shinigami shining on through with their attacks. Something that, of course, you would not expect from them, but they still did it anyways. Thoroughly proving that they are the better team on this attacking run. I'd have to say. They've done a lot of different moves throughout these few rounds, you know, reading of plays, doing strong pinches, even the rushes that really prove that individual plays and team plays are their strong suit.
Well, I hate to always point these out because they're painful, even as a caster to say this, but Taro has 0 kills, and he's been on that Jaeger roll and stuff. Like that's just... You can't have that. You can't have it, man. You have one of the better guns, and people might, you know, dislike the changes of the recoil, but to me, it's really not that bad. It's certainly still a great weapon to have in hand. You need to get some kills for your team here. Essentially, it's been a 4v5 since he hasn't netted a single kill, so that's not really helping your team too much. Now, if he had put him on a different role like a Smoke or the Echo, he could have been, you know, plant denial and helping his team in that way. There's really nothing else that a Jaeger brings you except for the kills. So I hate to call someone out like that, but he really needs to step it up. There's only one round left for Shinigami to get the win here, so he needs to get on his game right now.
Mavtrick is going to be coming in hot and ready. We see the Bucko coming up from below, damaging the player of Echo. Man who's going 11-6. ALX, or Alex, as we've been calling this unfortunate soul with a very weird name. Sorry if we are butchering your name once again. But still got Catboy coming in from below in stock. I really like that move, trying to play vert from below, even though it can be used against you, because it shows that you at least have the confidence and the courage to say, I'm going to go from below, I'm going to try to take away some of this utility, and maybe while I'm at it, try to net a kill for myself. And I mean, very close to doing so. We've been seeing Catboy use a lot of that time and force Musketeers into this pigeonhole of sorts into the site of cash, which could potentially fall right into the hand of that Buck DMR.
Twist gets that opening kill on Elliot, so another opening kill for Shinigami, and they're just going to have control of the garage, and Kenji getting kill onto Simon. Alex trying to get the refrags back, but Phoenix shuts down Taro. Alex finding a second kill, but he gets shut down by Phoenix now with the double of their own, and now Uber by themselves, a 1v3. This is for all the marbles. You lose this one, you guys are done. You're going to the lower bracket, and for Shinigami, that's another win in the books for them. Plant going down, he's have to push through, but Phoenix shuts him down. Triple on the last round, and that's just the icing on top of the cake. Shinigami wins 7-3, a dominant fashion on attack.
It was a dominant fashion on attack. The only 3 rounds that they actually lost were when they were on defense. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, flawless half, I guess we could call it.
I believe. Only 3, yeah, it was the only 3 rounds that they lost.
Mm-hmm. Hello. And welcome back, I guess. Wonderful time to reintroduce myself. Yes, Shinigami, they are going to punch their ticket through to the Canada Contenders League, joining the likes of Valor's and Wrecking Crew as well. One more team is yet to qualify, and they will be the winners of that losers bracket, which we have now seen Canadian Musketeers push down towards. They will still be able to qualify if they're able to win out that losers bracket, but, well, that's unfortunately where our stream is going to be ending. Giraffaro and Wes, it's been a huge pleasure to have you here, but let's talk a little bit more just before we sign off about that game itself. I mean, we saw a 3-3 split. It was very even. But then on the attack, that's where Shinigami really stepped up, and I feel like their coordination was certainly just a cut above the side of the Canadian Musketeers, wasn't it, Jenna?
Oh, hell yeah. It was, for sure. It was 100%. Not only were they able to pull out these tiny individual plays, but man, the team play, the chemistry, the way that they walked into sight with such confidence, won out their gunfights, and simply were able to gain rounds not even off of simple luck, not even off of understanding the meta, but just their team all together put in one map. I mean, it was amazing to see them play. I loved it.
And Wes, now that we're looking towards, obviously, Shinigami, they're going to be looking towards playing in the actual league itself. Put yourself in the shoes of somebody who's going to be going up against them. Say you've just qualified, what are the main things you're going to be looking to deal with? Because, I mean, I think I want to talk about round 8 in particular. There was a gap in the armor, and Shinigami really took control of it.
Yeah, there's definitely gaps in the armor, and I think one thing you can see consistently, I didn't have the exact stats, but I'm very confident when I say they won most of the opening engagements, right? And it came on the back of Phoenix in a lot of the cases, but even on defense, the rounds they had lost early on, they actually had the opening kills those rounds. So something to watch out for. If I was going against them, I would really look at how are they entering, and then how are they playing on defense as well? What are the points that they like to contest? And what can I do with that information? Should we avoid it, go around them? Or is there other angles that maybe they wouldn't account for? We can get cross angles on them. We can make sure we have someone covering the retreat. We saw them pull back a lot. That's a weakness that you could certainly capitalize on. And I think that is what was capitalized on in a lot of the cases. And then when they're on attack especially, it's like, just make sure you're holding the angles, but try not to be too predictable because they pre-fire a lot. So that'd be some stuff to watch out for.
I feel like that's pretty good feedback. Pretty good stuff to take forward and moving on. And I'm going to look towards Canadian Musketeers, Jenna, because, well, there's always two sides to every story. Their story is not over just yet. Obviously, they're going down to the lower bracket to try and qualify. What are some of the things they might want to look at improving in the very short space of time they have? And if they do qualify or have to wait for the next set of qualifiers, what kind of VOD review, what issues would you want to see them address?
I definitely would want to see them address, setups, specific setups, learning to set up a little bit quicker, understanding their setups, understanding where their positioning needs to be, and trying to stop themselves from getting caught in these, these really cooped up areas physically, where they're kind of all stuck in one spot, and it leaves a lot to be desired with personal positioning and how they can make an effect on the round for the rest of the round, because they're playing into exactly what the other team wants them to do, which is sitting in one room, being able to get walked in on and getting shot up, or even getting grenaded out of their life. And honestly, it's just something that you don't want to be seeing, and it's such an unfortunate thing, and I feel like all too often it happened to them.
Okay. I feel like that's good feedback. Well, obviously, congratulations to Shinigami. They have now booked their ticket, as we said. They've gone through, and they've quite comfortably done so. I think I'm quite safe in saying. Huge shout out to yourself, Jenna and Wes. You two have been absolutely incredible. Light Rose as well. For our first game, definitely stepped up in a massive way. A pleasure to be working alongside her again. It's been a while for myself. Huge shout out to Trix, working behind the scenes with the production, making everything look beautiful, and just yelling in my ear when I'm saying the wrong things. Unnamed Gamer, as well as Nova, they've been incredible observing, and Gooby just making everything run smoothly. Obviously, check out Twitter, because there is still one space left to be taken from that loser's bracket, but for the mainstream of the Canadian Contenders League, that's going to be goodbye. Make sure to check out the Twitter. We will have information and for the next qualifier events, and we will be right here.